Hello friends and welcome. My name is Popeye and today we're playing some more Higurashi Chapter 6, Tsumihoroboshi, or the Atonement Arc. Before we get into today's session, I just want to say that this game has some pretty mature themes. So here are some trigger warnings that we've encountered in the game. This game deals with blood, death, gore, murder, torture, rape, child abuse, self-harm, and body horror, and any of those things against a minor. If you missed any of those, either feel free to ask me to repeat them or check out down below in the description where I have a list of all of the trigger warnings that we've encountered so far. Hello, Avier, how's it going? So what happened last time? Mainly, it started with Rena getting more and more paranoid. She had moved out of her house to live in her secret hideout. She called the police, but after finding out that all the bodies that we buried have been moved, which we find out via Keiichi that Mion had her family move them to a safe place because forestry Japan was going to chop down a bunch of trees there and they would probably find it. Oh yes, Elden Ring. I have been watching Irish Butler. I think he's still currently playing it. He was as of like 20 minutes ago. I've seen a little bit of it. I'm not really a big Souls person to begin with, though, but it definitely looks interesting. Yeah, I imagine a lot of people are playing Elden Ring right about now, Friday night, just like whole weekend, just going straight through. And it's only a matter of time before someone beats it with the Switch Ring Fit. So Rena was getting more and more paranoid. She thinks she can't trust Mion. Keiichi originally goes there to give her some snacks. You see 8 people playing it right now. I'm not surprised. I think in mine there were 2 playing last I checked. So Keiichi's gonna go to Rena to deliver some snacks. We switch back to Rena, who's hiding in the car, and here's a couple of what she thinks are Sonozaki thugs trying to find her. Based on the context, I think we can surmise that they were actually police officers, and she's just too paranoid to realize that. And then Rika shows up. And Rena at this point is convinced that people are being replaced by weird alien body doubles of themselves, and basically tells Rika, like, I know you're not of Rika, I know you're some other Rika. To which Rika's like, you know what, you're right, and I'm here to give you this injection, which will help you. Of course, I can't force it on you, because I'm like a 10-year-old girl and you're 15, and you'll overpower me. But I thought I would let you know that it will help you. And of course, Rena's like, nah, I'm not taking some weird shot from an alien person who's pretending to be my friend. And Rika's like, okay, well, have fun. I'm going now. Keiichi arrives, and Rena at this point has already decided she has to move because too many people have been there that night. Keiichi tries to convince her to either go to Mion's house or his house. At which point, Rena's like, I can't trust you because friends don't keep secrets. And guess what? I had the police look into the background of all my friends, and you never told us that you used to shoot kids with a BB gun and you shot a girl's eye out. And that's why your family had to move here. He's like, well, that was the old me. I didn't think it was relevant. I wanted to make a new life here. And she's like, but what about not keeping secrets? And then she leaves. Cut to the next day where Keiichi's in the classroom. Everyone's kind of worried because Rena, of course, has been presumed missing or kidnapped or whatever, and her father's called the police. Her father also called the police on the fact that Rena took all of the money from his desk. He didn't think it was her, he just thought he was robbed. Yeah, everyone's trying to find her. It sounds like Mion has the Sonozaki family basically using their resources to both confuse the police and try to look for her at the same time. Eiichi's still thinking about the friends don't keep secrets from each other. So he tells all of his friends in detail what happened. They're like, friends can keep secrets. You don't need to tell us everything. Everyone has stuff they want to keep hidden. And also, like, we can't help you with that. Like, if you're asking for forgiveness or whatever, you need to ask the kids who you shot, not us. We can't do anything for you. And then Keiichi has this flashback to the first chapter, which is the question arc for this Onikakushi, the demon arc. Demoning away arc, where he remembers killing both Rena and Mion. And he's talking with Rika about this, and Rika is like, what, you remember this? That's a first. So Keiichi relives through that horror, apologizes to Mion, who has no idea what's going on. And I think that about covers it. I don't even know who we are right now. But we're just going to a summit at a traditional Japanese restaurant in Shishibone City, which is the nearest major city. When a black car stopped in front of it, 3 burly cops got out of it, followed by Oishi. They were welcomed by Sonozaki Corps members in equally black suits. It was something he didn't see every day.
今日はお招きいただきまして光栄です。遅刻しちゃって申し訳ないですね。
お客人、ご案内いたします。どうぞこちらへ。
There was a sign saying reserved at the entrance. Oishin's subordinates were taken inside. They walked through the restaurant's pretentious landscape garden and they came to the gorgeous Japanese-style entrance. A woman in a kimono was waiting at the entrance, as well as Kasai. On seeing the police officers, they stopped chatting and bowed deeply. The woman in the kimono was Mion's mother, Akane.
いやどうも園崎社長さん。本日はお招きをいただきありがとうございます。
I guess we're supposed to be Oishi for this.
ようこそいらっしゃいました。ご多忙中のはるばるのお越し、心より感謝いたします。
いえ、今日はごちそうになりますよ。ここの料亭は湯葉が有名ですからね。などんなごちそうか楽しみです。それから葛西さんもお久しぶり。直接会うのはだいぶ久しぶりになりますね。
ご無沙汰をいたしております。
まあなんかこの度はお互い戦争状態に突入しちゃってるようですが、白黒穏便に。
All right, and one other thing I had forgotten in the summary, man, there was a lot, is Rena had told Oishi that the contents, for the most part, the contents of the scrapbooks, which is basically the Sonozaki family and the 3 houses, have developed Parasite, which they plan to release to the public. Her guess was that it was being kept in the clinic, and she asked Oishi to investigate and to stop it from happening. Oishi was concerned about Rena, but Rena was like, I can handle it myself, and she also didn't really trust the police at that point, and figured that they would come and either take her, take the scrapbooks, or both.
こっちゃ全面戦争はいつでも大丈夫ですんで。
いえ、そのようなつもりは毛頭。
そりゃこちらもやりたかはないです。あんたが粘ると血の雨が降るって評判ですからね。私もいい年なんで、もう流血沙汰はごめんしたいところです。
Obviously, this was a meeting between people who hated each other. Tension in their words indicated that it wasn't likely to be a friendly meeting.
それではご案内いたします。どうぞこちらへ。
主催自らのご案内、痛み入りますよ。
そうそう。 招待状の名前は私で出させていただきましたが、今日の主催は本家でございます。訳あって招待状の名前を変えさせていただいたことをお詫びいたします。
本家ですか。防弾チョッキを着に戻ってもいいですかね。ね。
On the other side of the door there were several tables. Mion was sitting at one of them. Since Mion was still young, her school uniform functioned as her formal dress. Still, it looked strange with both the police and the corps members in black suits. Also, that's hardly a school uniform since literally everyone at school just wears whatever the heck they want to school.
これはどうも、園崎家の次期当主のお嬢さん。今日はお招きくださり光栄です。
本日はようこそお越しくださいました。まずはおかけになってください。
The two of them are speaking very formally, despite the fact that they've met each other countless times, and Oishi's thrown her in prison countless times. Mion politely welcomed the police, undaunted, even though they were older than her parents. Mion gave Kasai a look, and then he tapped on the door. The waitresses who had been behind the door started bringing out the drinks.
おいさん、一体こりゃ何のつもりっすかね。
さてね。まあ、ここは舌鼓を打たせてもらいましょう。ここの湯葉は有名ですよ。
They started drinking, but the tension continued for a while. Mion made the waitresses and the other members of the Sonizaki Corps leave the room. Soon only Oishi and his subordinates, Mion, Akane, and Kasai were left in the room. Mainly because we didn't want to render anyone else.
今日はどういうお話ですかな。
Akane nodded and began speaking.
本日は皆さんとの間に生じている誤解について説かせていただきたく。
ほう、誤解と申しますと。
発端はとてもさまつでございます。ここによってこの度の件は笠井辰義と龍宮レナ個人間のこと。園崎組は関与しておりません。
個人的事情って何ですかね。片木の龍宮さんと極道の葛西さんにどういう個人的な接点が生じるっていうんです？
葛西。
はい。僭越ながらご説明させていただきます。
Kasai told the police officers that he happened to meet Rena at a coffee house in Okonomiya, and that Rena found something he lost there and she offered to bring it back to him.
ちょいと無理がございませんかね。まあ100歩譲って落とし物の話を信じてもいいですよ。その後がちょいとおかしくないですかね。龍宮レナを探して組の若い連中が動員されてるって聞いてますよ。
それに関しましてはこの私めの手落ちでございます。龍宮レナさんが遅くになっても帰宅されないのを家人が心配されていたので、繁華街で見かけていることがないかどうか若い者に聞かせたのですが、その際に手違いがありましたようで。
おうおうおう、こんな割烹まで呼び出してそのヨタ話を信じろっての？あんたうちらの商売をなめてんの？ん？
Oishi looked a lot more like a member of the Yakuza than the real Yakuza did. Oishi threatened them with a nasty smile, and it piled on all the more attention onto the atmosphere in the room.
おいさん、まあまあ。
Umage tried to make him stand down. Officers with hot tempers pair with others who are good at calming them down, just like how Yakuza do. Oishi backed off with a grin. Kumagai took over, continuing from there.
それで、園崎家さんはどうおっしゃりたいわけですか？龍宮レナと笠井辰義の個人的問題だから民事に介入するなとおっしゃりたいわけで、そういうわけにはいきません。龍宮レナは警察で保護させていただきます。
Beyond opened her mouth for the first time in a while.
警察は龍宮レナを保護なさる理由をお聞かせください。
そりゃ決まってるじゃないかよ。あんたらが狙ってるからだよ。
Oishi answered bluntly. Mion remained nonchalant. It must have made him all the more annoyed.
どうして東方が竜宮レナを狙っているとお思いで？
そりゃあんたの胸に聞きゃいいだろう。ご自分のその胸に。
大石さん、本日は皆さんの誤解を解くための会合です。もちろん耳を貸されないのもまたご自由かとは存じますが、聞いた方がさぞかしよろしいかと思いますよ。
ほう。我々が何の誤解をしていると？
竜宮レナの持っている高野美代のスクラップ帳について、ある重大な誤解をされております。
The officer's expressions grew stern all at once. All of a sudden, she'd gotten straight to
竜
the
宮
point.
レナの保護は、彼女が高野美代のスクラップ帳を持っているからなのではございませんか？
Oishi and his subordinates glared back at her without saying a word, making it obvious that her guess was right.
葛西
Then I gave him a look and he left the room. However, he shortly returned, carrying a black suitcase. Every one of the officers assumed that there was a tremendous amount of money in the suitcase, and that the Sonozaki family was trying to buy them off. Thus, I opened the suitcase and showed the contents to the police.
これは。
高野美代のスクラップ帳です。残念ながら竜宮レナに手渡したと思われるものは含まれておりません。これを本日の魚にいたそうかと思います。
中身を拝見させていただいても構いませんか？
ええ、どうぞ。お話はそれを読んでいただいた後で構いません。必要でしたら人払いもさせましょう。
いえ、それには及びません。
The cops produced latex gloves from their pockets, put them on, took one of the scrapbooks out of the suitcase. There were more than 10 of them in
それ
there.
らは高野美代の死亡の際に沖宮の自宅から発見したものです。
Oishi and the others desperately turned the pages of the well-thumbed scrapbooks.
これ、間違いなく高野美代のなんでしょうね。
間違いありません。
大石さん、もしこれらに類するものを竜宮レナが持っているとするなら、
おそらくは竜宮レナが持つスクラップ帳もそれらに類する内容でしょう。
Oishi looked stunned by the contents of the scrapbooks. Started turning the pages faster, then closed the scrapbook roughly.
ここにあるスクラップ帳、全部がこんな中身なんですか？
ええ、そうですよ。納得ゆくまでご覧ください。
The other officers also rapidly turned through pages. They weren't reading them, just flipping through. They took one scrapbook from the suitcase after another and flipped through the pages
大
roughly.
石さん、こんなのめちゃくちゃです。たちの悪いオカルト小説ですよ。冥界と現世が激突して霊魂が流入した？これを証拠として採用しろって言うんすか？
ああ、そっちは冥界の仕業なんだ。俺のは地底人の仕業って書いてあるよ。
This one's about classified weapons of the Nazis. This one's about the legacy of the Mu continent. This one's about Oishi, the mysterious creature in Onigafuchi Swamp.
おそらく竜宮レナが持つスクラップ帳には皆さんもよくご存知の寄生虫説が記されてるのだろうと察します。
Police were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. The other officers were shooting glances at Oishi. They hadn't said anything to him, but they never really believed in the story of the parasites, let alone the bioterrorism. Oishi believed it and told them he had proof. None of the scrapbooks in front of them said anything about parasites, but it was easy to assume the contents of one scrapbook were no different in nature from another. In other words, all of them were just crappy occult novels. Oishi appeared unable to accept the fact that was facing him. Now that he was actually looking at it, it was too difficult to ignore. Mio Takano was no cult geek who had laughable ideas about the legend of Onagafuchi. But Rena took them seriously, and so had Oishi. The other officers could no longer stop themselves from laughing at the ridiculous scrapbooks. Oishi glared at them and they stopped laughing. The main reason Oishi took the story of the parasite seriously was because the Sonozaki family was apparently after Rena Ryugu for the scrapbooks she had. As Takano, the owner of the scrapbooks, was killed. Because of these two reasons, he believed in the occult B novel. Oishi was frustrated without a doubt. He had to accept that he was wrong. Oishi was eager for any information that could help him solve the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa before he retired. A combination of a number of factors made Takano's ridiculous theory seem highly credible to him.
いくつかお聞きしたい。高野美代はどうして？
高野美代についても富武二郎についても当家では一切関係。
そりゃそう言うだろうな。自分のことを嘘つきという嘘つきがこの世にいるわけはない。
あらあら大石さん、当家で始末したなら死体が出るとお思いで。
Mion wore a cold smile. She had said too much. Akane cleared her throat as if to condemn the statement that made Mion shut her mouth. Oishi glared at the young successor, but he knew she was right.
じゃあ、竜宮レナをなんで追ってるんだよ。
初めから追っていないと申し上げております。確かにそう見えてしまう誤解が生じたことはこちらのミスです。その点につきましては私よりお詫びさせていただきます。
Reasons which made Oishi take Rena's delusion seriously collapsed one by one. Mion and Akane looked at each other. They must have decided to let Akane speak, so she did so firmly.
当家からのお願いを申し上げさせていただきます。当家ではこのような世まいごとの内容に踊らされて警察と事を交えるのは望むところではありません。伝え聞くところでは県警防対本部の三海氏が公安部と調整をされていると聞いております。何かのさまつな口実をきっかけに当家に関連するすべてに対し一斉捜査を入れられるおつもりとか。
That had been Oishi's request. Oishi took Rena's story seriously, and he wanted to find the research facility that was developing the parasite. He was intending to use it as proof of the potential bioterrorist attack. But as he had no idea where to start looking, he tried to conduct simultaneous raids on all facilities the Sonozaki family owned in the entire prefecture, in cooperation with the Task Force for Gang Groups and Public Safety. Normally, the circumstantial evidence he had wouldn't be enough to get their cooperation. In fact, Public Safety doubted Oishi's source because they hadn't heard of any potential terrorist attacks. They trusted their information network. Oishi took advantage of his long career and his old friends. He managed to get them to cooperate. Oishi's face broke out in a nervous sweat. Needless to say, he realized he was completely
当家の
wrong.
ダム戦争の当時はいろいろとご迷惑をおかけいたしましたが、すでに昭和も60年代を前にし、時代の移り変わりを感じております。そんな中、当家もまた弱きを助け、強きをくじく任侠団体でありながらも、時代に即した平和的な路線を模索しているところです。そんな中、警察の一斉捜査を頂戴しては、手前どもの面目が丸つぶれでございます。
あんたんとこの面目なんて知ったことじゃないよ。叩きゃ誇りが出るんだ。一斉捜査は決行しますよ。
誇りが出れば結構ではございますが、出なかった場合、いくら大石さんといえど決して軽んじれない責任問題に発展するかと存じますが。
上等だよ。うちと全面戦争するか。
それをお望みでしたら、どうかお気が済むようお仕事をなされてくださいませ。当家はいつでも受けて立ちますので。
Kanai Sonozaki didn't betray Oishi's expectations. Although her right to become the successor was taken away, Akane had been through a lot more than Mion. Oishi couldn't back out now. He knew it was a fight he probably couldn't win. Magi butted in and tried to calm him down.
一斉捜査を控えることに対する見返りは？
Mion answered this time.
双方の友好の証として、そのスクラップ帳を皆さんに献上いたします。そのスクラップ帳があれば、まだ高野美代を出しに矛先を引っ込めることもできましょう。
These scrapbooks proved how ridiculous Mio Takano's theory was. Takano was dead anyway. Wish he could show people these scrapbooks and say he was fooled. He could still pretend the whole raid thing never happened. Might have to take responsibility for it, but if he didn't back off now, there'd be no doubt he'd face a hopeless mess. If he was going to back off, it was now or never. The administrative staff at his station weren't exactly fond of him. He made such a huge mistake right before his retirement, people who'd been looking for a chance at revenge would cut his pension with glee. His pension was decided by multiplying his base salary by a certain number. If they cut his base salary, there's no way he could avoid a big reduction.
おいさん。
He decided to back off. It's hard for him to admit mistakes at his age. He grimaced with anger.
あとはクマちゃんに任すわ。ちょっと飲みすぎちゃったみたいです。私はちょいと縁側で夜風に当たってきます。失礼。
Oishi stood up quickly and left the room, making a lot of noise as he walked. Kasai closed the door Oishi left open. The room was filled with silence again. At that point, Kamagi opened his mouth.
園崎家さんの言い分は了解いたしました。警察としても一斉捜査が及ぼす各業界への影響は本意ではなく、それによって市内の平穏を維持するため、今後とも警察と園崎家で連携していくことを確認したいと思います。よってこの度の一斉捜査は見送らせていただきます。
ありがとうございます。園崎家当主お領に代わりまして深く御礼申し上げます。
約束に従い、このスクラップ帳は警察でお預かりします。それから条件が2つ。
賜ります。
1点目は、この場にないスクラップ帳を園崎家が入手した場合、速やかに警察に提出すること。2点目は、竜宮レナの身柄を確保した場合、速やかにその身柄を警察に引き渡すこと。
2点目は認められません。竜宮レナは妄想に取りつかれた一少女に過ぎません。当家で速やかに身柄を確保した上で、しかるべき治療を受けられる医療機関を手配します。これは当人の権利でもあります。
その点につきましては当方も主張を引けません。当方には高野殺しを含めて竜宮レナに尋問する権利があります。重要参考人としてです。容疑者としてではありません。
Kane whispered to Mion. I actually like this overlap where she comes in behind. At first I thought it was kind of weird, but then if she's whispering, it actually makes a lot of sense. Mion in turn nodded and began to speak.
わかりました。2点目の条件を了承します。ただし、当方からも条件を追加します。竜宮レナの権利保全のため、当家から弁護士を派遣します。竜宮レナへの尋問はすべて弁護士立ち会いのもとで行うこと。
了解しました。ただし1点確認を。園崎家からの弁護士が意図的に派遣されないことによる妨害は認めません。警察は竜宮レナの身柄を確保した後、直ちに尋問を開始します。
当家も問題ありません。ただし竜宮レナの身柄確保時には直ちに当家へ連絡をすること。
可能な限り早く連絡するようにいたします。
Kane cut in.
尋問をあらかた終えてから電話されても困ります。身柄を確保した時点でご連絡をお願いします。ここいらは互いを信頼した上での善意の取り決めでございます。どうか保護にされることがないようよろしくお願い申し上げます。
わかりました。双方による善意の取り決めです。遵守に誠心誠意努力いたします。
Akane and Kumagi glared at each other for a moment. Surprisingly, Kumagi was very calm. He was always in the shadow of Oishi. He was loud and noisy, but he had as much guts as his superior did. Oishi was good at taking care of matters in a rough and threatening kind of way, but Kumagi was good at negotiations like this. The meeting ended and the police stood up from their seats. The tension in the room had finally ceased. Kasai put the scrapbooks back in the suitcase and handed it to Kumagi. Kumagi looked at Kasai, nodded lightly, and took what was offered him.
イタリー製の最高級カバンです。今日のお土産に含まれますので、どうかお持ちになってくださいませ。
いえ、お約束ではスクラップ帳のみをお預かりすることになっております。カバンは後日、園崎組事務所へお返しに伺わせていただきます。それでは失礼します。園崎家当主お涼さんにもどうかよろしくお伝えください。
The officers left after bowing to Mion. Making sure that the police had left the hallway, Mion sighed heavily, finally let go of her tension. She spread her feet on the floor, lapping the rim of her skirt.
いやー、肩が凝っちゃったよ。お母さんがやってくれればよかったのに。
バカだね。あんたの方が肩書きが上なんだよ。こういうのは年じゃなくて肩書きなの。葛西、中井に行ってビールでも持ってこさせて。あと外の若いのも呼び入れて何か冷たいのを振る舞ってやりな。
ビールだけでよろしいですか？
ああ、この子はダメ。オレンジジュースでも頼みな。
子供扱いして。
I love how the Yakuza's line is like, oh, we'll murder people, bury the bodies, and, just harass people. Give a 15-year-old a beer? No, that's where we draw the line.
肩書きが上でも全然大人扱いしてもらってないよ。
いくつになってもでっかい子供だよ、あんた。それはそうと、今回の一件、お父さんがだいぶ手回ししてくれてるんだよ。よーく感謝しときな。葛西もね。あんたも片木と会うときはもうちょい気を利かせな。
みっともない限りです。
しかしさ、あの大石をコケにするとはレナちゃんもやるじゃない。あんたの友達はつくづく大物が多いね。今度ぜひ母さんにも紹介してよ。お芝居でも一緒に見に行きたいね。葛西、今度レナちゃんに会ったらぜひそう伝えておいてよ。その時また物騒な話を吹き込むんじゃないよ。
もちろん分かってます、姉さん。
With that, they successfully dispelled the magic power of Takano's scrapbooks. The whole mess shouldn't grow any larger. The only remaining problem was Rena. Where could she be hiding? Before I went to bed, I headed to my window to close the curtain. I saw the shadow of a person near the porch. Who could it be so late? Well, I didn't have to guess who it was. There's only one person I knew who might come see me so late. I opened the window and looked more carefully this time. I was right. It was Rena. She was just standing still under the light. I wondered how long she'd been there for. Didn't look like she was going to ring the doorbell. She was just standing there. She seemed to be asking herself whether to ring the doorbell or not. For how long had she been hesitating in front of my door? Looked like even standing was giving her a hard time. She looked very tired. I ran down the stairs, put my sandals on, and rushed out of the house. Rena looked surprised to see me, even though I came out after making a lot of noise. She looked relieved to see me for a moment, but then she glanced downwards and looked sad again.
いつからここに突っ立ってたんだよ。
わかんない。夕方ちょっと過ぎくらいからだったと思う。
Rena must have been staying somewhere outside for the last 2 days at the very least. It wasn't like she'd been camping for fun. She'd been in a state of high tension the whole time, believing that someone was trying to kill her. Rena looked utterly exhausted. She seemed to have taken care of the deep scratch she made on her neck the other day with some large band-aids. The band-aids had cute pictures, but that only made the wound on her neck look more painful. I saw some band-aids soaked with blood on her arms and body too, and I could tell she made them herself. She had more scars than she had last night.
中に入ろう。この2日間、ろくなものを食べてないんだろ。
When I tried to take her in the house, she refused with a vague expression on her face. It wasn't that she didn't want to go into the house, it was more like she had to refuse because she thought she didn't deserve it.
もうね、ダメなの。今のこの瞬間も、私の全身の中で変なのがざわざわ騒いで、かゆくて、かゆくて、溢れ出しそうなの。
なあ、レナ。多分それは何かの病気なんだ。とりあえず今夜は俺の家で休んで、明日の朝一番で監督の診療所へ行ってみないか。監督ならレナの微妙な立場を分かってくれるから、誰にも内緒で診察してくれるよ。
もうダメ。自分でも分かるんだよ。富武さんがどういう最後を遂げたか、今ははっきりと分かるの。私は必死にそれを我慢しているだけ。
Rena believed she was given some kind of suspicious drug that made her claw her neck to death, just like Tomotake's-san did. She had convinced herself that it was going to happen. She wouldn't hear anything else right now. But she really wanted somebody to help her. She wanted help, but when someone tried to give her a hand, it looked like the hand of the devil. This was some kind of disease, what a horribly depressing disease it was.
どういう最後になるかわからないけど、多分もうそんなに長くないと思うの。
そんなことねえさ。無敵の部活メンバー竜宮レナがそんな程度でくたばるかよ。
ありがとう。それでね、私死んじゃう前に圭一君にどうしても謝りたかったの。
謝る？何をだよ。
私昨日すごくいけないことを言って圭一君を傷つけた。
Must be talking about last night. She trusted me, but when Oishi-san told her about my past, she felt betrayed. After that, everything I did out of goodwill seemed like the opposite to her. I know what it's like. I once felt the same way about you, Rena.
私もね、昔引っ越してくる前、とても悪いことをしていた。いっぱい。
そうか。そうなんだ。
圭一君みたいにおもちゃの鉄砲で撃つのなんかと比べ物にならないよ。金属バットで頭が割れちゃうくらいに殴った。みんな大怪我だった。他にもね、学校のガラスとかいっぱい割って歩いたり、それからね。
I know. I don't care about any of that. You did that before you moved here. That's why you stopped being Rena Ryugu and became Rena after you moved here, right? To me, you're my best friend who's very kind, thoughtful, and fun. It's the most important thing. I don't care who you were before.
ね、私ももっともっといっぱい悪い。圭一君のこと仲間じゃないなんていう資格。
それは俺もなんだ。俺も最初レナの過去のことを聞いて
そっか、知ってたんだ。
Rena laughed sadly. She seemed shocked to find out that I knew about her history when she thought I didn't.
でもだからなんだよって思ったぜ。引っ越してくる前にレナがどんな大悪党だとしたって、それでレナはいろいろと泣いたり笑ったりしながら人生を積み重ねてきて、それでひなみ沢に引っ越してきて誰にも恥じなくていい生活をしてるじゃねえかよ。前の町で悪いことがあったとしたってレナはそれを悔いているならどうでもいいことだったんだよ。その結果竜宮レナってやつが尊敬できる人間に成長できたならどうでもいいことだったんだよ。
I should have noticed it earlier. Rena is Rena. That's why she's Rena Ryugu. I couldn't understand that simple thing when she said she wasn't Rena.
レナも聞いたろ。俺も悪いやつだった。 バカだったんだ。なんてバカなことをしたんだと後悔した。だから引っ越しは人生をもう一度やり直すいい機会だと思ったんだ。だから俺はひなみ沢では自分で自分が好きになれる前原圭一だったと思ってる。それはレナもなんだろ。茨城でどういう生活だったかなんて関係ない。ひなみ沢にいる竜宮レナが大事なんだ。だから竜宮レイナが何者だろうと俺には全然関係ないことだったんだ。
そうだよね。
新しい自分をやり直せる機会は何回あったっていいんだ。そんな機会があるから俺たちは何回も失敗しながら傷つきながらもっと大好きになれる自分を探してさまよえるんじゃないかよ。人生に一度や二度のつまずきなんてつきものなんだ。だからそんなのにへこたれないで俺たちはどんどん成長していかなくちゃいけないんだ。だからそんなたくましい人の膝に残るかさぶたを見ておぞましく思うなんて最低のことだったんだよ。
No matter how many times you fall, go through a lot of pain, you can be kinder to others. I don't need to know your past. Even if I know, it shouldn't have changed the way I treated you. We were fools. We couldn't understand that until we went through things like this ourselves. Mion knew that from the beginning. We were such fools. Hurt each other, made each other cry.
竜宮レナはこれまでも今もそしてこれからもいつまでも俺の最高の仲間だ。レナが辛い時きっと俺が助けるから俺を信じてくれ。
ありがとう。圭一君を信じるよ。
It's very tragic, but what she said isn't true. She probably didn't mean to lie, but I knew she didn't trust me from the bottom of her heart. My words didn't reach her. I knew that because Rena kept telling me to trust her that time. Kept saying those words. Well, I kept hitting her with the bat, but they still didn't reach me.
私ね、もう多分長くない命だと思うけど、こんな素敵な圭一君がいるひなみ沢を救うために頑張るよ。
No, Rena.
奴らなんかにこの村を乗っ取らせない。みんなで楽しく過ごしていた日々を取り戻すために私は戦うよ。奴らの陰謀を必ずやっつけてみせるから。
She said that she trusted me, but she didn't understand anything I was saying. Even if I kept telling her that the conspiracy was Takano-san's solution, it wouldn't reach her.
ありがとう、圭一君。レナを許してくれて。
I do forgive you. So please, forgive me for what I did to you.
きっとひなみ沢を救う。だから圭一君、力を貸して。圭一君だけは信じられる。圭一君となら救えると思ってる。
レナ
I knew how bad of a corner Rena was driven into. If I was her, I'd be walking around with a baseball bat, thinking every person around me was my enemy. Rena cared about me so much, but I saw her as my worst enemy. But Rena, you still trust me, even when you're driven into this bad of a corner. I couldn't understand what you were saying. I beat you to death while you kept telling me to trust you, but you're different. You still trust me? You are so...
どうして泣いてるの？
許してくれ。許してくれ。俺はもう絶対にレナを裏切らないから。レナのことを信じるから。だから許してくれ。
何のことを言ってるのかよくわかんない。圭一君はいつもレナのことを信じてくれてるよ。だからレナも圭一君のことを信じてる。信じていいんだよね。圭一君だけはレナを信じてくれるんだよね。
Tears fell from my eyes. I sobbed and nodded again and again to answer her. Tears welled up in Rena's eyes too. Before I knew it, we were putting our foreheads together with tears in our eyes.
ね、 私ね、この戦いを終わらせる方法を見つけたの。
本当か？
うん。勝ち目のほとんどない方法だけど、私にできる一番の抵抗だと思う。
レナ、それがどんな方法かは知らないけど、それが終わった後、俺たちはみんなでまた楽しかった元の日々に戻れるんだよな。戻れるんだよな。そうじゃなくちゃ嫌だ。俺はお前をこの場から行かせない。
大丈夫だよ、ケイチ君。元の幸せな日々に戻るための起死回生、逆転の最後の一手なんだから。
I don't know what she had on her mind. It began with a delusion, and it would end with a delusion. I encouraged her too much. She twisted into an attack on her. I was like that at that time. I took Rena's goodwill as the complete opposite thing. So I stopped denying her story. This was Rena's battle. It was her lonely battle, and she'd fight against her own delusion. The more we tried to help her, the more we drove her into a corner. I would always be there for her. Whenever she needed help, she could reach me. I wanted to let her know that, so I said just one thing.
最後の瞬間までレナの味方だからな。絶対にレナの味方だからな。
Even if I told her to trust me, I knew she couldn't right now. I knew that, but I told her those words anyway. Even if she couldn't believe them, even if she tried to smash my face in, I'd say those words. I'd keep saying them until I die.
ありがとう、ケイチ君。明日でね。きっと全部終わるの。きっと私たちは勝つよ。そしたら、またみんなで楽しく部活をしよう。みんなで。私たちが一番楽しかった時を取り戻そう。
Although she wished to regain her happy times so badly, I couldn't get rid of the darkness that controlled her mind.
じゃあ、私はこれで行くね。明日の準備があるから。
To tell the truth, I didn't want to let her go. I wanted to stop her even if I had to grab her arm. But I couldn't stop her like that. If I grabbed her arm, she wouldn't trust me anymore.
待てよ、レナ。明日の準備って。
Which, oh, you got udon, have you?
Mm-hmm.
How is the boy doing?
It's good. I fed him a mix of banana, blueberry, and strawberry.
Oh, did he like it?
I'm not sure.
'Cause he didn't like the
some.
raspberry.
Yeah. He ate some of it. I don't know. He holding on to my necklace.
Yes, he is. You can curl your hand, bud. I don't want to force your hand out. Oh, there we go. Hi, bud. Come and say hi. Don't jump on my camera.
You might.
Oh, it's not really anchored in. You would fall off.
Doesn't focus on his face still. Does your camera autofocus?
No.
Look at the little hands, so cute.
Bring him back to about my hand. There we go.
I love him.
Hi, bud. I can just see that there's a blob there. He's kind of like in a blind spot. Maybe my beard's just in the way. It helps a little bit.
How come your name is Popeye and then you have another thing that says pot pie?
That's my bot.
Oh, pot. Okay.
Yeah, that's a nickname people called me, and I was like, that's not me. And then I made the bot, and like, see, it's not me, it's this other person.
I see. Okay. Keep playing.
Okay.
内緒。圭一君に協力してもらうこともあるかもしれないけど、その時はレナを助けてね。
ああ、当然だぜ。
I nodded strongly so that she could tell I was still on her side. But I didn't know what her come-from-behind victory meant at this point. First thing that I could think of was that she was going to invade the house of the Sonozaki family, which she thought was her enemy. So I called Mion to warn her after Rena left. Mion laughed bitterly and said, "Why does everyone want us to be the bad guy so much?" She understood the situation.
You want me to leave him there?
No, I'm worried he's going to jump on.
Alright, come on, buddy.
I like having him on me, but only when I can, like, concentrate on him.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll bring him out tomorrow. We'll probably bring them both out.
See if Achilles likes it. Who's on will be fun, please.
He'll be stressed, yeah.
レナが妙なことをしでかす前に踏んじばって病院に担ぎ込むのもいいかもしれない。
本当に最後の最後まで行ったらそれも仕方ないかもな。でもレナを信じたいんだ。最後のギリギリまで。あいつはこんなに心が追い詰められても俺をまだ信じるだけの心の俺とは違う。だからきっとレナは妄想に打ち勝てるはずなんだ。
最近ケイちゃんとリカちゃんが何を言ってるのかおじさんちょっと分かりかねるんだよな。なんか最近ヘビーなことでもあったわけ？
You can say it happened lately in a way. I killed Mion a couple days after the festival.
悪いな。意味のわかんない話ばっかりしちゃって。それよりレナのこと見損なったりしないでくれ。な。
そんなわけないよ。誰だってたまには心が風邪をひく時があるって。レナのこれもその程度のこと。まあちょいと熱は高いみたいだけど、すっきりケロッと治ってすぐに笑い話になっちゃうって。ケイちゃんが思ってるほど事態は悪くなってないよ。
Presumably, Mion and Rena had this almost basically exact same conversation in the previous world line that Keiichi keeps remembering.
例の件は発生自体にも気づいてない。だからこのままレナの空騒ぎでしたってことで決着できる。
And I mean, looking back at the previous 5 games, one of them takes place in the past, doesn't necessarily have to deal with the curse per se. So in the first one, Keiichi is the one who goes crazy. The second one, it's Shion. I guess you could argue Satoshi to an extent, although I think he's actually fairly lucid at the time. The third one, no one that we can see goes crazy. Keiichi acts the same way Satoshi did and is lucid enough. He definitely has some, I guess, delusions, but he's lucid enough. The fourth one is the one that takes place in the past. And then the fifth one is Shion again. Mion bragged about her achievement, laughing loudly. I could tell she was exaggerating a little. What did I miss? Oh, yeah, she was shaking in fear, okay. Anyway, compared to the sense of impending doom Rena seemed to be feeling, the others seemed to be taking it rather easy. It's all up to Rena now. If she understood everything, she could go back to the peaceful world she wished for. We were waiting for her to reach out to us. Just like we did by the abandoned car at the garbage dump that day. Rena, I couldn't win, but I know you can. because you're the one who told me to have faith until the end, so I know you can win. That didn't mean she could literally win the last battle she was talking about earlier, but Rena would win. She'd win and regain her peaceful life. So far it's only been, and now Rena, so it's been Heichi once, Shion twice, Rena once, and then a couple times when it wasn't anyone, or at least no one we could directly see. Okay. This game likes giving us a single tip each time. So this one's called Last Night.
もう明日なのです。
ん？ああ。私たちの命日？
今回も同じ顛末なのです。
そうかしら。よく似てるけど、いろいろと違うところもあったわ。圭一、前のことを覚えてたし。
そんなことはありえないのです。覚えているわけ、いや、知っているわけはないのです。
So it's not last night as in yesterday's night, it's the last night before they die.
じゃあこれは本当に奇跡なんだって思えるわね。
どうせ今回もおしまいです。
おしまいかしら。
もうすぐ終わる。全部終わる。そう。日暮らしの泣く頃に。
Was it all going to end anyway? The more often you throw a die, the closer the total will get to the average. Throw a die 100 times, even if a miracle happens and you get a 6, 2 or 3 times in a row, the total will average out in the end. It's a fact of statistics. When you throw a die 100 times, the total number ranges from 100 to 600. The more you throw, the greater the likelihood that the number will converge on average. But the truth is, the more you throw, the more possible outcomes you create. There are 500 different futures you can create by throwing a die 100 times. There are 5,000 different futures you can create by throwing a die 1,000 times. There might be one future among them that enables you to actually finish this never-ending game of dice. Heichi showed me a miracle, and it taught me that it's not a waste of effort to keep throwing the die. Don't give in to something like an average.
イラつく背中を見せるわね。どうせ今回もダメだろうって。そういう哀愁でいっぱい。
We also had the title drop earlier.
私だって
triple question mark.
どうせダメだろうと思ってる。でもね、最後のサイコロを投げるまで私は諦めない。圭一が教えてくれた。今回は何かが違うの。だからそれを信じてみる。
リカは本当に強いのです。
まあね、あんたよりはずっと若いし。
リカ？みー、こんな時間に起きてて。夜更かしはダメでございましてよ。ごめんなさいなのです。寝苦しかったので星を見ていただけなのですよ。もう寝ますです。そうなさいませ。おやすみ、リカ。おやすみなのです、さとこ。
Alright, so we're going to save. And then I think the next chapter is actually the final chapter. Depending on how long it is in the after party, there's a chance that either this will be the last stream of this game, and also that it might run long. I'll have to see how long this last chapter is. Or maybe it won't, because I do remember this game has a choice near the end, and depending on how long that choice point is, we're going to have two, I presume it's just a singular choice point, 2 different endings to go through. We'll have to see. Walking with only me onto school made me miss Rena a lot.
どうしたのさ、ケイちゃん。さっきからキョロキョロしてさ。
なんでもないよ。
It was the same old path to school, but I felt nervous for some reason. I wondered what Rena meant when she said that she was going to win a come-from-behind victory last night. I couldn't stop feeling like something dangerous was going to happen. Rena thought Mion was one of her enemies. She could be lying in wait to attack Mion with a knife.
大丈夫だって。レナがそんな短絡的なことをするわけないよ。まあ仮にそうでも自分の身くらい守れるからね。
Mion said it brightly, as if trying to tell me that she wasn't afraid of anything. But I couldn't be optimistic like her, because I knew exactly what Rena was going through. Rena must be determined by now, and she probably wouldn't mind dying fighting against Mion if she wasn't going to win anyway. Of course, that didn't mean she was definitely going to take violent action, but I couldn't deny the possibility either.
それよりおじさんが気にかかるのは、どうしてレナが急に変になっちゃったのか、その理由の方だね。
Was there any reason? I remembered the tragedy. I couldn't remember what made the world go crazy. I remembered we got lost in that awfully scary world. It started with small things, and those small things continued to pile up one after another. If you thought about it calmly, you'd laugh because it was really a stupid thing. Once those little tiny stupid things started to bother you, you couldn't ignore them. It was that kind of disease, if you could call it one. But there must have been a reason. There must have been a reason that made the world go crazy. It must be such a small thing that you couldn't even notice, and unfortunately the reason was very difficult to understand. You wouldn't be able to figure it out until you died.
親戚にお医者がいてね、ちょっと聞いてみたんだけど、脳とかに腫瘍ができて、たまたまそれが珍しいところだったりすると、性格が急に変わったり、普段と別人みたいになってしまうことがあったりするんだって。大昔はこの病気が悪魔つきや狐つきなんて呼ばれて、オカルト的に脚色されてたこともあるんだってさ。
ってことはつまり脳という体の一部に起きた肉体的な病気ってわけか。
今回に関しては精神的と捉えてもいいかもしれないね。レナはリナ鉄平殺しの後かなり動揺していて、心が不安定になってた時期があった。そんな時期に大石のバカタレが富武さんたちの事件を大げさに吹き込むもんだから。
大石さんって人もさ、高野さんのスクラップ帳に少し似てるとこがあるかもな。
へえ、どの辺が？
なんていうのかな、ひなみ沢村連続開始事件というものが存在しているというあたりについて盲信しているというか、現に5年連続で起こってるのにこんなことを言うのもなんだけど、俺さ、もともと連続事件なんて存在しないんじゃないかって思ってる。
It's true that the mysterious incidents happened 5 years in a row. They were each solved individually. It was the same as the past you didn't need to talk about. We thought of them as a series of mysterious deaths, which is why we thought something was going to happen this year too. It led us to think that there was a conspiracy and that the Sonozaki family was behind it. Connect those things to the series of mysterious deaths, but we shouldn't do that in the first place. Just like I tried to keep my distance from Wena when I found out about her dark past. Wasn't everybody trying to keep their distance from the dark past of Hinamizawa? Takano-san's scrapbooks are a good example. She dramatized both recent incidents and old cruel history. She made feasible stories out of them, saying that the Sonozaki family was behind it all. Oishi-san did the same thing too. He was so convinced that the Sonozaki family was behind it all that it was making him interpret things the wrong way. In that sense, we could say Oishi-san believed in the same delusion as Rena.
その辺にはさ、何かあるごとに黒幕のように振る舞う園崎家の責任もあるんじゃねえのかな。この村では何かおかしなことがあれば全て園崎家の暗躍。それで決着をつけられてしまう魔法の言葉になっちゃってるんだよ。例えて言えばほら、この世の現象は全てプラズマで説明できるみたいな感じだよ。
ほう、つまりそれは何を、園崎家が全部悪いってわけ？
そうだ、お前が全部悪い。よってお前の名前は今日からプラズマミオンと呼ぶ。うわ、なんだかレスラーみたいな名前だな。
はあはあ、プロレスラー大いに結構。そうだけいちゃん、コブラツイストって知ってる？
やめろ、このクソ熱いのに絡みつくな。いててて、いやー。
ですわ、ケイチさん。おはようなのです。
Sadako and Rika-chan looked a little sad when they saw only two of us. The three of us came to school together like always. They would have been really happy. Our classmates were as noisy as usual. No one seemed to make a big deal about Rena's absence. Chie-sensei was going to be here soon, and she'd start morning homeroom. Everyone was fooling around as if they didn't want to miss a second of the time until then.
今日は臭い。窓閉めて。バーカ。窓を閉めたらもっと暑くなるんだよ。
It smelled like gasoline or something, and it really stank. Someone from the forestry service must be putting gasoline in the construction equipment or something. Some students near the windows were making a terrible fuss because they wanted to close the windows to shut out the smell. Our school wasn't a normal school compared to others. We were using a part of the forestry service building. Unusual things like this happen sometimes.
いやいや、こんなの大したことないって。いつだったかな、貝塚いぶきを剪定した枝葉をトラック山盛り何杯分か運び込んできたことがあってさ。
When she says big pile, she means like literally trucked in and like those big ones that like have all the gravel.
貝塚いぶきって何ですの？お野菜の名前なのです。たまにカレーに入ってますのですよ。
今度スーパーに行ったら探してみろ。
よくわかんないけど、最初はリカとケイチさんに毒味をさせた方が良さそうでございますわね。
あれー、俺たちのボールがねえ。王女、お前がまた隠したんだろう。
Boys seemed to be looking for their ball for a while, and they yelled at Sadako.
誰がそんなものを隠しますの？どうせ隠すならもう少し気の利いたものを隠しましたよ。
ほらほら、先生来たよ。みんな席に着きな。
はい、皆さん、席についてください。
I kept thinking about Rena the whole time during class. Thought about what she said last night. Wonder what her come from behind victory means. According to Kano-san's delusion, the masterminds behind the bioterrorism were the three families and a group of fanatical believers that controlled those three. In other words, the Sonozaki family. What could Rena do alone against them? Mion looked at her grandmother, the leader of the Sonozaki family. There were only two of them in the house. It was possible that Rena would try to break into their house with a knife. I'd already come up with that possibility last night. That's why I called Mion and warned her. On the way to school this morning, Mion told me some bodyguards from the Corps had been in her house since this morning. She told me that she'd be guarded herself, too. There was a black car parked near the school gate. They must have been the bodyguards. But according to Takano's parasite theory, the battle wouldn't end just by attacking the leader of the Sonozaki family. According to the delusion she believes in, the conditions of her victory are more complicated than that. She needed to expose the group of fanatics who are behind the Sonozaki family. She needed to destroy their research on the parasite. Plus, Rena didn't have much time left, thanks to that suspicious poison she mentioned. How exactly could she win a come-from-behind victory under circumstances like that? She might interpret that the town council are a group of fanatics, so she might attack them the next time they have a meeting at the shrine. The town council meets once a month at most. It'd be hard to believe that they were holding a meeting today. She probably thought the place researching the parasite is the Irie clinic. Rena suspected that there was something fishy about the clinic from the beginning. That suspicion must have changed her to certainty in her head by now. That means she's going to attack the clinic? So it wasn't like an action movie. What could she do all by herself? You gonna start a fire? No, that would be pointless. In order to expose the conspiracy, she'd have to get proof that they were actually studying the parasite. Was she going to break into the clinic and get questionable, weird samples? Hey, Candy, how's it going? The last problem of all was how much time she had left. She believed that she didn't have much time left, especially under desperate, disadvantageous conditions. She might try to stab whoever she thought of as an enemy. Rena sounded like she really believed she would regain her happiness and peaceful days after everything was over. Yeah, going all right. Work has been busy, but this past week actually wasn't too bad for once, which was nice. and got some stuff happening, just personal life. Like I got a coworker who lives 4 hours away, her in Europe, like 2 countries away, who's coming over tomorrow, staying the night. And then my grandpa's birthday's on Tuesday, so it's gonna be a fun and busy week. Rena probably meant she's going to stay alive and win. There's something like an antidote. It didn't have to be real. As long as it was an antidote to Rena's delusions, it didn't matter what it was. It could even be the water you washed your vegetables with. Yeah, I'm just trying to think, because we've got stuff for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Sunday again. Yeah. The antidote must be difficult for her to get. The easiest place for that in her delusion was that it was hidden somewhere in the clinic. Putting it all together like that, I felt like Erie and his clinic were in danger. Now that I thought about it, the elderly people in the village, including all the members of the town council, hung out in the waiting room of the clinic all the time. If most of the board members happened to gather there for her, it'd be the perfect place to attack. I told Mion about that during lunch break.
普段ならそんなバカなって言いたいところだけど、その可能性を全く否定できなくもないからね。本家に電話してみるよ。診療所にも人を配置するように言っとく。
Mion didn't object to my crazy idea. He put down her chopsticks and went to the teacher's office to make a phone call.
先ほどからなんだか物騒な話でございますけど、本当にレナさんがそんな恐ろしいことをなさいますの？診療所を襲うなんて信じられませんわ。
するかもしれない。しないかもしれない。でもな、怒っちまったらおしまいなんだよ。惨劇に抗うってことは、起こさないように戦うってことなんだから。
何事もないことを祈りたいのです。
Okay, we're gonna save here. So I don't actually know which is the correct answer to this. Let's drop a save there. So one of these is going to be a good ending, and one of these is going to be a bad ending. I like to try and get the bad ending first. Okay. That happens, we're screwing to prevent the disaster from happening. I hope nothing happens at all. I'm gonna guess that yeah, I guess is the bad ending. So we're gonna pick this first. Tarika-chan, who had whispered that I...
ミオンのところに行ってくる。
After taking my leave from them, I left the classroom and headed to the facility office where Mion had gone to make a phone call. Not like I could do anything even if I stayed by her. I just hated staying doing nothing but wallow in anxiety.
"まさかとは思うけどね。何をやらかすか分かったもんじゃない。
姿を見たら直ちにひっ捕らえてしまって構いませんか？
本当は嫌なんだけどな。どうしようね。
先日の会合で竜宮レナを確保して警察に引き渡すことで決着しています。ですのでひっ捕らえても一応筋は通ります。
うちの対面じゃなくてレナの心情的に気の毒だなってこと。できたら本当に静かに決着したいんだけどね。
まあお若いですから。人さえ殺さなければ大抵はごめんなさいで済みますよ。
As long as she didn't kill someone. Well, we're way past that.
じゃあアウトかもだ。
いえいえ、見つからなければセーフですから。セーフ。沖宮の界隈ではあの二人の失踪を気にする者はいません。何かのヤバい話を踏んで夜逃げしたんだろうということになっています。あの程度のゴロつき、次から次へです。 ですからセーフセーフ。
アウトだのセーフだの、私ら野球拳でもやってるわけまあいいや。それじゃあくれぐれもよろしくお願いします。
了解しました。ではひっ捕らえてよろしいんですね。
ちゃんとタッチアウトにするんだよ。クロスプレーなんかにしないようによろしく頼みます。
I couldn't help but have a silly chat with Kasai-san. I put the phone down. I sensed Chie-sensei was looking at me. No wonder she'd been able to hear the conversation clearly in this tiny room. Chie-sensei put her spoon down, and with a sad look on her face, she asked the following.
今の電話は竜宮さんをめぐる話ですか？
まあ、はい。
園崎さん、竜宮さんはどうして家出をしちゃったんでしょう？お友達として何か知ってはいませんか？
It was hard for anyone to understand Rena's situation, except for me and Kei-chan. So most of them thought that Rena just ran away from home. After she did, the cops made too much of a fuss over it. The way she stupidly believed that the scrapbooks were a big scoop, and he overreacted in trying to find Rena. He had patrol cars running around everywhere in the village, he even used the town council's phone directory to find her. So people in the village thought Rena did something wrong, and was trying to run from the cops. What was going to be difficult for me, more than finding her, was to make up a story to retrieve Rena's honor after they detain her. What about this? Rena went for a walk, fell down, hit her head on the edge of some tofu, and lost her memory. Boy, she misunderstood something big time, and thought she was a criminal. It was too easy. Anyway, we did make it clear that Oishi was the one who misunderstood everything at the meeting the other day. I had to make best use of his name while he was still feeling down for once. What I'd have to do is not make a big deal about this situation, to create an environment that allowed Rena to forget everything that happened in order to get her life back together as soon as possible.
大丈夫ですよ先生。レナは今ちょっと病気になってるだけです。それを警察の某ベテラン刑事が素敵に勘違いして話をややこしくしただけです。まさか先生、レナが悪いことをして逃走中なんて信じちゃいないですよね。
それはもちろんですけど、でも家出することによってご家族におかけしている迷惑を考えれば悪くないということはありません。
She had a fight with her father and she ran away from home for a little while. She acted childish, and that's all. Maybe that'd be the best story to go
何
with.
か悩みがあったのでしょうか。それに気づけなかった私は教師失格ですね。一度竜宮さんとじっくりお話がしたかったです。
先生、ちょっとヘビーに考えすぎです。もうちょっとリラックスリラックス。プチ家出なんて今時珍しくないですって。
はあ、竜宮さんがこのまま不良になってしまって悪いことを始めたらどうしましょう。
Ryu-san becomes a bad kid. She does something bad and gets arrested by the police. It's her teacher's responsibility. I'll be dishonorably discharged. I can't eat curry anymore. I'm dead. Oh, okay. Chie-sensei seemed comically upset by her own imagination. Looked funny, so I decided to leave her alone. I made to leave the teacher's office to go back to the classroom, but right then the phone
はい、
rang.
もしもし、ひなみ沢文庫でございます。
Chie-sensei had to answer the phone all day because the principal was on a business trip. I exited to the hallway. Then I heard the tone of her voice change.
今どこにいるんですか？
What? I yelled and looked back at her. It's probably Rena. She called the school. I tried to go back inside the teacher's office, but Chie-sensei gestured at me not to come in. Chie-sensei acknowledged what Rena was saying several times, then she looked up at the
わ
clock.
かりました。今からすぐ行きます。先生との約束ですよ。
Said only that, put the phone down, and got her purse out of her locker.
院長、先生は休養ができました。しばらく表へ出ますので、みんなを自習させてください。
She took her car key out from her purse. It's obvious that she was going to see Rena somewhere.
今の電話はレナ。
以上です。よろしく頼みますよ、院長。
Chie-sensei completely ignored me as she ran out into the hallway. She ran to the schoolyard and got into her car.
ケイちゃん、
どうした？シエ先生慌ててどこに行ったんだ？
レナから電話があった。
え、なんて？
I ran after the teacher without answering that. Kei-chan followed behind me. She ran to the schoolyard and got into her car. The moment her car left through the gate, I ran out to the schoolyard myself. I headed for the black car parked near the gate and knocked on the window.
今のところ異常ありません。
違う。今出て行った先生の車を追って。多分行く先にレナがいる。
何？
Ichi yelled in surprise, but there wasn't any time left to explain
レ
it to
ナ
him
は警
now.
戒心が強いから注意してね。捕まえたら有無を言わさずに本家放り込んで葛西の指示に従うこと。私の友人だよ。怪我なんかさせたら許さないからね。
Rena must have told Chie-sensei that she wanted to talk to her alone. I could tell that easily from the way she ignored my question. I did feel a little bad for ruining their promise. It was very important that we caught her before she did something wrong. She'd still make up an excuse that she was just wandering around because she had a fight with her father and ran away from home. If she set fire to the clinic or something, there'd be nothing I could do.
ミオ、俺も行く。
ケイちゃん。
先生がレナのいる場所に向かったんなら、俺も一緒の方がいいはずだ。頼む。
そうだね。確かに。じゃあケイちゃん、早く乗って。
わかった。
Kei-chan opened the car door and swiftly climbed into the passenger seat. While we were dilly-dallying, the teacher's car was beginning to disappear from our line of sight. I only prayed that we didn't lose
よろ
sight
し
of
く
her.
頼んだよ、ケイちゃん。
ああ、任せとけ。
The car made a rough U-turn on the gravel road and it chased after Chie-sensei's car at full speed. As I tailed the shadow of the disappearing car, I could only pray for the series of misfortune to end on a quiet note. Chie-sensei's car soon came into view. It was traveling at a very fast pace, but thankfully she was the sort of person who didn't drive above the speed limit. Past the stone steps of the Furude Shrine, and left the paved road partway into a coarse mountain trail. Where we were headed wasn't even to the damn construction site, where the mountains of trash lay. We were headed to an unknown location, which I was unaware of. I was still unfamiliar with the
この道っ
area.
てどこに続いてます？
山の方っすね。このまま行くと谷をまたいだ隣の町へのルートになるっす。
And as if it nodded in agreement with the driver's words, the vegetation around us opened up on one side, and we saw mountains in the distance and a valley between them. I saw a stream up ahead and a suspension bridge straddling it. According to him, there was certainly an unmanned office cabin in the vicinity set up for emergency purposes. Judging by Chie-sensei's panic, had Rena threatened to jump off from there or something if she didn't come? So, then why exactly? That's right. So why had she called Chie-sensei out to the suspension bridge? The sudden question triggered a throbbing anxiety which spread across my chest. First of all, what did Rena even have to do with Chie-sensei? I mean, it's not like they were on bad terms. Rena was a good student, so she had a good relationship with her teacher. It's not like she had a trusting relationship with her enough to call her and consult her on such affairs. And also, why the suspension bridge? It was a threat to jump off if she didn't come. The shrine had a good enough elevation for that. She didn't have to call her all the way out here.
しまった。
I was astonished, finally having understood Rena's intentions.
チエ先生の車を止めてくれ。
え？
早く。
As we noisily rang the car horn, Chie-sensei's car came to a halt, almost close enough to hit us. Then she got down, looking stunned. After that, recognizing me in the passenger seat of the car behind her, she tried to yell out, but I beat her to it and cried, "We're in big trouble."
先生、俺たちレナに騙されたんだ。レナはここにはいない。
The teacher didn't understand what I was talking about and donned a confused expression. But there wasn't even any time to explain it to her, so I flew towards the phone booth near us, put a 10 yen coin in the slot and dialed the phone number to the staff room, which I vaguely recalled. I'm surprised I actually have a different telephone for this. Please, somebody answer. Mion, Sadaka, Rika-chan, I don't care if it's somebody else either. I had to tell this to the people at the school fast, so hurry. Hurry up and pick up the phone. And after the phone rang about 10 times and I'd almost given up, the call went through.
もしもし。すみません。俺、前原です。すぐに、園崎美音に繋いでください。もしもし聞こえてるのかもしもし
I didn't know if it was because I was using an old phone or because the line was too far away, but I couldn't hear anything from the receiver. Then I was about to raise my voice and yell into the phone.
何ケイチ君、みーちゃんに何か用かな。
My prediction was on the mark. It was even worse than I had imagined.
レナ、そこにいるんだな。
うん、いるよ。みーちゃんたちも一緒にね。ケイチ君がいないのが残念だよ。一人じゃなかなかやりづらくって、うるさく騒いだり泣いたりして頭にきたから、何度か殴っちゃった。
なんてこと。おいレナ、いいか、ここには千恵先生もいる。だから落ち着いて俺の話を。
ケイチ君はそっちに行っちゃったのか。だったらお話はこっちで聞くね。早く来てね。待ってるから。
おいレナ、待て、切るな。
Those words fell on dead ears. Rena, who was on the other side, swiftly ended the conversation like it was nothing.
ご苦労様っす。本日午後1時頃、ひなみ沢営林署内のひなみ沢分校区画にて教室占拠が発生しました。犯人側の第一要求は営林署敷地内への一切の立ち入りの禁止と当保へのホットラインの確保です。
ってことは初めから警察と交渉する気ってことですか。どういうつもりだ。
あと犯人は交渉人に大石さんを指名してます。犯人は竜宮玲奈。
竜宮さんが？わかりました。いいですよ。とことんお付き合いさせてもらいましょう。
But she gave a crooked
竜宮
smile.
玲奈以外に犯人がいるか不明です。カーテンが閉められているので状況も一切確認できていません。
通報者に選挙時の様子は聞いてませんか？
いえ、竜宮玲奈からの直接の犯行声明でした。よって内部の状況は一切不明。担任と生徒の1名は犯行直前に竜宮玲奈の電話呼び出しを受け、遠方に呼び出された間の犯行でした。
計画的ですね。営林署側の人間は人質には？
今日は営林署職員は不在でした。よって生徒24名のみ。生徒数は担任が出席簿で確認した人数です。
それプラス犯人ってわけか。竜宮玲奈以外に犯人らしき人影は？
いえ、何度かカーテンから覗く人影がありましたが、いずれも竜宮玲奈本人でした。ですが規模他を考えて、おそらく最低でももう一人二人はいると予想されます。
レナちゃんはとても真面目ないい子なんです。こんなことをするなんて何かの間違いに決まっています。
大丈夫ですか？
But she ran up to Chie-sensei, who was crying with the handkerchief held up to her face. Chie-sensei was huddled over, and Oishi didn't think he could say anything else to her.
大石殿、よろしく もしできるなら人質の交換を申し出たい。ぜひ私と子供たちを交換していただきたい。
校長先生、それは私がやります。私が悪いんです。
先生方、どうかご自分を責められないでください。先生方には校内の状況についていろいろとお聞きしたいことがありますので、ご協力をお願いいたします。ボンジ君、図面の方で話を聞いてあげてください。
失礼します。1号車の無線に高杉課長です。
はいはい、もしもし、大石です。
大石さん、ご苦労さん。状況の大体は熊谷君に聞いたよ。犯人は未成年だそうだね。マスコミ規制の方を厳重に頼むよ。
分かってます。あと、犯人側が私を交渉人に指定してきてるようですが、問題ありませんかね。
とりあえず犯人の要求なら致し方がない。頼んだよ。
おいさん、車載電話に犯人です。
早速ご指名の電話が来ました。早速出ることにします。ありがとう。はい、もしもし、大石です。
I clenched my teeth in frustration and rolled up my fist into a ball. An overwhelming wall of police officers blocked my way, and I felt pathetic for only being able to watch the teachers and detectives from afar. The reason behind why Chie-sensei had been phoned and summoned out of the school. Rena, who wanted to hijack two classroom, not wanted to hijack the classroom. The biggest obstacle was Chie-sensei. She was someone who had a strong sense of justice. Even if Rena had a pistol to her, Chie-sensei probably wouldn't have hesitated. For the welfare of her students, she would put herself in danger. Getting rid of someone like her was the primary step in order to hijack the classroom. Attacking her from behind would have been her very first line of thought, but I'm sure she decided on taking on an adult directly was a risky affair. In that case, it was better to lure her away to someplace. Rena then phoned Chie-sensei and told her that she was for her advice in someplace private and asked to meet her near that suspension bridge. Including Chie-sensei, a good majority of people thought that Rena had merely run away from home. So Chie-sensei probably thought Rena merely had some trouble she was to discuss. Fooling her was that easy. Yeah, I totally understand, Candy, because it's... What time is it for you guys there now? Add 6 hours to 2:30? Yep. Yeah, no worries. Get a good night's sleep. Yesterday was 4. Yeah. Yeah, go take care of yourself. No, thank you for stopping in. So where did Rena make the call from? It was from within the school. Well, not exactly. Most likely the second floor of the school building, in the office room of the Forestry Service. Forestry Service at our school is more like a branch office, so it wasn't like the staff were always present. Depending on the day, they might not even be there. Ren had known this and been hiding on the second floor all this time. Then she made a call to the ground floor from up there and sent Chie-sensei to a faraway place. It probably wasn't a coincidence that the principal had also been away on a business trip today. Ren had most likely snuck into the school yesterday itself. Then she discerned the principal's itinerary and the workings of the internal phone line before she put her plan into action. How cunning it all was. No, I understood. Right now, even as she was possessed by a murderous rage, Rena was keeping her composure. She was unbelievably calm, despite being plagued by her delusion that controlled her. And so, just thinking about it made my head spin. Because I had even personally experienced what she was going through before. Also, what was even more unlikely was the absence of the Sonozaki family bodyguard who had been standing by the gate. Because Mion had sent him to follow Chie-sensei who had set out to meet Rena. Fuck, everything was so screwed up on so many levels.
今ですね、県警の防隊と公安部で一斉捜査作戦を準備中なんです。何しろ市内全域を一斉にやりますからね。
遅すぎる。大石さん、私たちは今、獅子骨氏が置かれている緊急的危機についてよく理解し合っているんじゃなかったでしたっけ？ 何をのんびりとしたこと。大石さん、本当に私の話を信じてくれているんですよね。私の味方なんですよね。味方ですよね。答えてください。
もちろんですとも。ですが、警察組織ってやつは簡単じゃないんです。私も最大限努力をしてるんですよ。ただですね、やはり話の規模があまりに大きすぎるもので。
Negotiations weren't that satisfactory, to be honest. Even as they spoke, it was clear from the overwhelming tension that Rena's patience was wearing thinner and thinner.
圭一君を呼んで。
は？今何とおっしゃいました？
そっちにいるんでしょ、圭一君。彼と話をするから早く呼び出して。
わかりました。
Bush asked one of his subordinates to summon the boy who stood in the front line of the crowd gathered at the barricade. He immediately jogged over to the car as soon as it was
前
called.
原圭一さんですね。
はい。
竜宮レナさんがあなたと話がしたいそうです。通話代わってもらえますか？
わかりました。
Bush then handed over the receiver to Keiichi to notice something happening outside and left the
もし
car.
もし。
圭一君、よかった。戻ってきてくれたんだね。
レナ。
警察がね、レナの言うことを信じてくれないの。レナの言ってることが本当で、レナがやろうとしてることが本気だって、圭一君からも言ってくれないかな。
やろうとしてることってなんだよ。
今この教室にね、ガソリンだから、レナが持ってるライターでちょっと火をつければ、ここにいる人質はみんな死んじゃう。それを大石さんに教えてくれないかな。
なんですかあんたたちは。
どきたまえ。ここの責任者は誰だね。
Several cars had arrived, producing several men. They weren't from the Okonomiya station. One of the men was wearing a suit despite the hot weather. He approached me, pushing Kumagi aside.
おや、これはこれは。お久しぶりですね。県警本部の大高くんじゃありませんか。
言葉を慎みたまえ。もう君に君と呼ばれる階級ではない。
何かご用ですかね、大高くん。
Boy, she's like intentionally just disrespecting him
非
now.
常に立て込んでいます。まさか県警がこの現場を乗っ取ろうつもりで？誰の了解で？
私が許可した、大石君。
所長。
高杉君から事情は聞いている。君がまいた種だという話も聞いているぞ。君はもう下がって、あとは機動隊に任せるんだ。
機動隊って。大高君、あんたまさか吸収する気ですか？
危険は重々承知だ。だがもう爆発まで時間がない。君が時間を浪費しすぎたのだ。その尻拭いを我々がしようというんだ。君らは引き継いで後方に下がりたまえ。
I couldn't talk back if both the chief and a guy from the prefectural headquarters gave me an order.
おいさん、何者っすかあいつは。
大高くん。昔、麻雀がくっそ弱いくせに生きがってたから、ちょいと叩き潰してやったことがありましてね。それともあれかな、剣道大会で偉そうにしてやがったから、面食らわして失神させたのを根に持ってるのかな。
Obviously, we didn't get along.
現在の最新の状況を説明したまえ。
あんた、本気で突入する気で？
突入は府警の専門部隊が担当する。君はバックアップに回りたまえ。
所長。
大石君、府警の専門部隊はただの機動隊じゃないぞ。第二機動隊といえば、君ほどの男なら噂くらい聞いてるだろう。
なんすか大石さん、第二機動隊って有名なんですか
？5年くらい前だっけ、空港の飛行機に犯人が立てこもった事件があったでしょう。あれをきっかけに東京と大阪にハイジャック専門の特殊部隊が組織されたって噂は聞いてましたがね。実在してましたか。
でも、なんだって不敬の機動隊がこんなところに。
Taka smiled proudly.
たまたま県警機動隊との交流訓練があってね。特別に応援を要請したのだよ。
相変わらずですね。話をすぐ派手にしたがるその癖は。
The company members exited the vehicles one after another and took position. They didn't move like policemen.
大高君、あんた学校で銃撃戦をやる気かい？
安心したまえ。突入犯が使うのは火器じゃない。ボート鎮圧用のガス銃だ。高圧ガスで催涙ガスを噴出する。何の問題もない。
へえ、そりゃあ便利な水鉄砲があったもんで。ところでそのおもちゃは校庭を横断して教室まで届くほど便利なものなんで。
それは君が心配することではない。あとは我々に任せて下がりたまえ。
And then, following Taka's orders, the special forces took position at a blind spot visible from the school window and prepared to infiltrate. The way she wrinkled his nose at Taka's arrogance and pretentious attitude didn't give way for counter-arguments. Remembering that Ren and Keiichi were having a conversation, he turned on his heel, heading over to the patrol car. And there... Once the door to the car swung open and Keiichi rushed over to him, screaming.
Rena が教室内にガソリンを撒いたって。
Gasoline? I didn't hear that there was something so inflammable. Now's the time when you remember that inflammable and flammable mean the same thing. No, it's not about that right now.
構え。待ってください。やめろ。撃つな。ふて。
I think we found the bad ending first. Yeah, we just blew up the school. And we just killed everyone inside. Our bodies are promptly blown away and hit the ground. Didn't understand what had happened for a moment. A high-pitched tinnitus violently reverberated within my skull, and an overwhelming dizziness distanced me from my consciousness. My throat and nasal passage felt irritated from the suspended dust particles and smoldered air. Spitting out the crunchy debris from my mouth, I dragged my beaten body up into a stance and faced forward, looking ahead of me. There were many police officers scattered about on the ground, groaning from the impact. The voice of agony filled the air next to me, and as I faced it, turned out to be the detective I had been talking to just now. His entire body was covered in dirt and debris, and he was bleeding from his head. As I began to sit down in concern for him, I suddenly remembered Mion and Rena's safety. And then I turned towards the direction of the school. I couldn't believe it, what I was seeing. What stood before me was a disordered conglomerate of wood, brick, and other distorted articles mixed in, crudely resembling an enormous camping bonfire. The flames that had risen up in between that mass burned so high they seemed to reach up into the evening twilight. Even from this faraway distance I could perceive the heat and the scorching smell. No, this had to be a dream. This couldn't be our school. This wasn't even a school in the first place. I staggered over. Fumbling forward with my useless legs, I walked over to that monstrosity. Then before me, amidst the crumbled remains of timber, I discovered a face I recognized and drew a breath before I rushed over. Mion's eyes were wide open, facing my way with her right arm raised. Her mouth was slightly open. She probably couldn't speak. I had to get her out of here first. Thinking that, I tightly grasped that right arm. It felt light. There was no resistance. Then from within the rubble, it came out. And then a small mass rolled over and touched my feet. Mion's head had come apart from her body. Okay, we were correct and guessed the bad ending. So in the bad ending, we literally killed everyone in our school and made our friend's head pop off. It sounds like a bad ending to me. So here's what the school's supposed to look like. So now we're going to boot save. So presumably, that last choice had us leaving the school. So that was, yeah, I guess. So we're going to say, we're going to do the good ending. It'll be alright.
わかりました。若いのを2人ほど診療所に送ります。
まさかとは思うけどね。何をやらかすか分かったもんじゃない。
We'll fast forward through anything that's a duplicate.
本当は嫌なんだけどな。どうしようね。
先日の会合で竜宮レナを確保して警察ですので。
So we're gonna fast forward through this phone call just because we just did it.
できたら。
まあ、人さえ殺さなければ。
じゃあアウト。
セーフ。沖宮の会何かのヤバいあの程度のゴロつき次からですから。
アウトだのせ。まあいいや。
This is the same conversation that Neon has.
買っちゃうクロスプレイなんかにしないようによろしく頼みます。
Chia Sensei's gonna ask the same thing.
その先お友達として何か知ってはいませんか?
Okay, we got the same stuff. Same trying to come up with an excuse so that Rena doesn't go to prison.
レナは今ちょっとそれを警察まさかせ。
それはでも家出することによって何かそれに気づ一度
もうちょっとプチ家。
Okay, our teacher still dies because she can't eat curry anymore. Phone still rings.
今どこにいるんですか? 今先生との約束ですよ。
Okay, so far we still have the same thing.
しばらく表へ出ますので、みんなを自習させてください。
先生、今ので
以上よろしく頼みますよ、院長。
Okay, the teacher still runs off.
お疲れ様です。今のところ。
今出ていた先生の多分。レナは警戒心が強いから注意して。
So just the difference is that Keiichi stays in the classroom and doesn't come out. So he doesn't meet Mion, and therefore he doesn't join the car chase. So probably, yeah, here we go. So now it's different.
午後の授業は自習になったよ。というわけで、おとなしく席について
But I
何
think we
か
have a
や
pretty
るこ
good
と。
idea what's happening soon, and it won't be studying.
自習?
Mion ran up to me and spoke quietly.
レナから電話があった。
本当か?
うん。ついさっき職員室に電話が。千恵先生が指定された場所に会いに行ったみたい。
レナのやつ、一体どういうつもりなんだ?
わかんない。とにかくうちの車に先生の後を追わせてる。レナには悪いけど、そこで踏んづかまえる。
うまくいくといいな。
荒ごとには慣れてる連中だよ。任せとこ
う。じゃあ捕まえれば一件落着なのか?
だね。そしたらとりあえず病院に放り込むよ。きっと専門の医者が見たらなんだってくらいに典型的な何かの病気だよ、きっと。強迫性、心因性、ストレスなんたらとか、多分そんな感じのやつ。
We were spending our afternoon studying peacefully. Members of the Sonozaki family would capture Rena, who would be waiting for Chie-sensei somewhere, and the problem would be solved. It wasn't going to be easy after that, but I was sure that Mion would take good care of her. In the end, everyone would understand that Rena just ran away from home because of a silly fight with her father. A happy ending.
一件落着でしょ。
Mion winked at me. She looked like she'd already thought everything was over. That just didn't sound right to me. I couldn't see any connection between Rena and Chie-sensei. It's hard to explain, but there was something wrong. I wasn't saying that they didn't get along. Rena was a good student, so Chie-sensei had a good relationship with her. I just didn't understand what Rena wanted from Chie-sensei. While I was thinking about it, the door opened. One of our classmates came back from the bathroom. With Rena. Okay, I have to see. She actually has the same stance. And I think they use almost the exact same hatchet. I think they color it slightly differently, maybe to stand out from her clothing a bit more. Everyone gasped in surprise. Even Chie-sensei couldn't make everyone go quiet all of a sudden. Rena was gripping the shoulder of the student who came back from the bathroom. On the other hand, she had a big, scary-looking hatchet, the same one she had the other night. Everyone immediately understood that Rena had taken a hostage. Oh, and then she's got the scary eyes. Nobody grasped what she was asking us to do. We all froze. Rena was the only one who was smiling. It was terrifying.
レナ、あんた何をやってんの?
A loud noise washed out Mion's voice. Rena hit the teacher's desk really hard with her hatchet. She pulled out the hatchet, making an ominous ripping sound. There's now a line of violence carved plainly into the desk. She broke it. Chie-sensei is going to be so mad when she comes back. No, that wasn't it. What? The hell? Rena, your eyes, you look so scary. Never seen eyes like that in my life. Her eyes are full of insanity. Why are people afraid of insanity? Insanity means that a person doesn't share the same values and same common sense as us. For example, say a thief breaks into your house and he ties you up. You'll get scared and wonder if he's going to stab you before he leaves. But you hope the thief has feelings too and that he's not going to kill you for no reason. No matter how bad the person is, we tend to believe in his goodwill as long as we share the same values, the same common sense, the same morals as him. But we can't expect goodwill from someone who doesn't have those things. We can't expect goodwill from a person who can't communicate with us. When a burglar is a knife and you beg him not to hurt you, you expect him to listen to you and to show you mercy. In other words, you can still communicate with him. But if he doesn't have the ability to communicate, he's just like a monster that's trying to attack you. Like the blade of a guillotine that's falling down on you. You fear him because you can't communicate with him. That's insanity. It was the same fear we were feeling towards Rena at that very moment. She looked like a human just like us. There was no room for her to communicate with us like a normal person could. Everybody understood that fear instinctively. Rena was like a barrel of gunpowder at that moment. She seemed really calm and quiet, but she could explode any minute. When she did, I doubt she'd show us any mercy. She probably wouldn't hesitate to use that hatchet on us. That's right, just like how I didn't feel guilty or hesitate to kill Rena or Mion. Everybody went all quiet while pushing the desk against the wall to make a space where Rena wanted it. Rena said we were moving too slow, hit the blackboard with the hatchet, making a horrible noise. Every time she did that, she left an equally horrible scar on the blackboard, the thing that we look at most in the school.
を出してもらえるかな。それを使ってみんなを後ろ手で縛ってね。
俺縛るのとか下手くそなんだよ。多分上手に縛れないぞ。
後でちゃんと縛れているか全員のを調べる。ゆるい人はその場で殺しちゃうから、しっかり縛ってあげてね。
Jeez. Oh, okay. We were still kids. Saw the word kill all the time. It was used a lot in comic books and cartoons, after all. Normally you'd assume that we'd be used to hearing the word kill. To Rena, our lives were like cards you could use for negotiation. Get rid of one card every time somebody refused her request. Get rid of? Damn it, why did we use such scary words like get rid of for simple things like playing cards? Anyway, there were about 20 students in the class. That was a little bit too many for Rena to handle. I might get rid of one or two just to set an example. I decided to do what Rena said because I didn't want her to lose her temper. I got out everybody's jump rope from their locker.
じゃあみんな床にうつ伏せになってね。圭一くんは後ろ手にどんどん縛っていって。きっちり縛るんだよ。圭一くんは私の味方だもん。だからわざとゆるくなんか縛ったりしないね。
Mian tried to make eye contact with me. If everybody was tied down, we wouldn't be able to stop her from occupying the school. There were more than 20 students in this class. Half of them were boys, but most of them were smaller than Rena. But there were enough people here to overwhelm her. But if we did that, Rena would probably hit her hostage with the hatchet. And she'd use the hatchet to attack the rest of us without hesitation. It'd be a bloody battle. I'm sure somebody would get hurt if we tried to overpower her, the hostage. Be seriously injured, or maybe even die. If that happened, it was over. No matter how hard we tried to cover up, we'd never be able to live peacefully like before. Mian seemed to understand that too. I could tell from Rena's eyes that she wasn't going to go easy on us. If somebody showed defiance, she'd break the hostage's head open immediately. Of course, Rena had done that before. She'd probably do it again with no hesitation. As long as we did what she said, we could prevent that bloody tragedy. We could somehow solve the situation without shedding any blood. With Mian's influence, we might still be able to pretend that this never happened. At least, we had to make sure she didn't kill anyone.
ケイちゃん。
Mian tried to think of ways to overpower Rena, but she couldn't come up with any good ideas to save the hostage. That's how easy it would be for Rena to kill them. The best thing to do at that time was to wait for a chance without agitating her further. Mian lay down on the floor and everybody else followed suit, sluggish with terror. I was left alone, standing rooted to the spot with jump ropes in my hand. All my classmates were lying face down on the floor while Rena was pointing the hatchet at the hostage, watching her every move from behind the teacher's desk. I just stood frozen in the middle of it all.
圭一くんにはまだまだ手伝ってもらうことがたくさんあるの。だから早くして。あんまり時間がかかると何人かが死んでしまうかもしれない。
Some of the little kids started crying when they heard the word
大
die.
丈夫だよみんな。圭一くんがきっと助けてくれるから。だからきっと誰も殺されないよ。
Damn it. What a bold threat. She said I was her friend, but she was just playing with the meaning of the word. I was the last person who could still fight against Rena under these circumstances. But it wasn't going to be easy to overpower her by myself. I wasn't sure if I could do that. Even if I tried to act tough, once Rena pointed the hatchet at somebody's neck, it was over. I shouldn't fight against her for now, just wait for a chance. As long as Rena was alone, there would be a chance. She made me tie them up because she couldn't do that by herself. There was a limit to what she could do because she was by herself. We could cover this up somehow before Chie-sensei came back. We'd still be able to pretend like we were kidding around. I finally realized something. I realized why Rena called Chie-sensei to meet with her. In order for Rena to take over the classroom, she needed to get rid of Chie-sensei. Chie-sensei had a very strong sense of justice. Even if Rena had a gun, she wouldn't hesitate to overpower her. She was the kind of teacher who would risk her life for her students. Rena needed to figure out how to get rid of Chie-sensei. That was the key to her plan. Rena probably thought about attacking her from behind at first. There was risk there, as Chie-sensei was a grown-up woman, so she probably thought that attacking her directly wasn't a wise choice. So naturally, the next option was to lure her out somewhere. Rena called Chie-sensei and told her she wanted to talk to her in private, in order to lure her to some place far from here. Most people, including Chie-sensei, thought Rena was just running away from home, so Chie-sensei must have thought Rena had some problem she wanted to talk to her about. It was too easy to deceive her. Where did she make the phone call from? She probably used the phone in the school. Well, not in the school to be exact. She probably used the phone on the second floor of the school. The one belonging to the forestry service. The school was using part of the forestry service building, but this particular location was more of a branch office. It's not like somebody was here all the time. Rena knew that and probably been hiding here for a while. She called the phone on the first floor from the second floor. She made Chie-sensei leave the school. I didn't think it was a coincidence that the principal was on a business trip today. She probably snuck into the school yesterday. She saw the principal's schedule, learned how to call the phone on the first floor from the second, and carried out her plan. She planned it perfectly. Yeah, I knew it. Rena was insane, but she was also actually really calm. She was possessed by her delusion, but she was also unbelievably calm about it. So she could still think fast. I knew that very well because I had been through the same thing before. What was worse is that Mion's bodyguards were gone. Mion told them to follow Chie-sensei because she thought Chie-sensei was going to meet Rena. Damn it, everything seemed to be working out in her favor.
しまったぞ。
I tied up the last person and looked in Rena's direction. If I didn't tie them up really tightly, Rena would kill them. When I tied them too tightly, they suffered in pain. Their pained cries made me feel useless.
ありがとう、ケイチ君。ケイチ君を疑りはしないけど、一応全員を調べるね。ケイチ君は頭の上で手を組んでうつ伏せに寝ててね。これは全員に言うけど、私の断りなく立ち上がったら殺す。本人も殺すし、見せしめでランダムにもう一人殺す。ランダムじゃよくないね。じゃあこうしよう。言うことを聞かなかった子と出席番号に銃を加えた子を殺すにしようかな。例えば岡村くんが言うことを聞かなかったとする。そうすると出席番号11番渡辺くんが一緒に殺されちゃう。わかる？常に2人死ぬの。歯向かっても自分の命一つじゃ責任が取れないってこと、よーく胸に刻んでおくんだよ。
Waffle. You totally understood how to threaten people. Normally you stand against an attacker at your own risk. If you fail, you're going to die. But if you're responsible for someone else, then you couldn't try to resist. You can't risk somebody else's life with your own decisions.
うん。全員ちゃんと縛れてるね。ケイチくん、縛るの下手くそって言ってたけど、結構自信持っていいよ。じゃあ、ケイチくんは立って。
It was too late to fight back. I followed her orders. Just had to wait for a chance. Still turned this into some kind of a bad joke. I had to do something. Anyway, what were you planning to do, Rena? And tell me this is the come-from-behind victory you were talking about. This is the good end, where we tied up all our classmates and threatened to kill them. Okay. We're gonna again fast forward through this because we saw it in the bad ending. So any of this that's the same, we're gonna fast forward through. My guess is it's gonna be the same until the phone call, maybe?
わかりました。いいです。とことんお付き合いさ。
竜宮でカーテンが閉められているので、
通報者に。
いえ、よって担任は犯行直
計画営林書が。
今日はよって生徒数は担任が出席簿。
それっぽ竜宮レイナ。
いえ、 ですが規模他を考え
What doesn't quite match up is last time when they said the number of hostages matches the attendance, but Keiichi wasn't there. He was outside, so it would have been one less. And I think they just didn't account for that because it would have been one more divergence in text.
おいさん、校長と担任です。
ああ、どうも。大丈夫。
レナちゃんはこんなこと
マニュアル通り、多分竜宮さんに限っては先生より私の方が詳しいように思います。まあ、なんとか穏便に解決しますからご安心を。
大石、もしできるならぜひ私と子供たちを交換。
校長、私
先生方には校内のボンジ君、図面の方で話を聞いてあげてください。
失礼。1号車の無線に高杉課長です。
はいはい。
状況の犯人はマスコミ。
分かってます。あと
We could auto or we could skip, but I don't want to miss anything.
早速ありがとう。はい。もしもし。
どうも、竜宮です。
Okay, so now we're Rena this time. And there's the blood red text of her insanity.
大石です。
車載電話って電波とかが悪いんですか？たまにちょっと聞こえにくくなりますね。
私と同じでね、定年間近なんですよ、きっと。
Okay, so it's slightly different now, so we're going to resume regular bit. There might be some duplication in this phone exchange, but we're going to take it at more or less the regular pace now. Oishi and I exchanged friendly words. Long cord trailed through the hallway from the teacher's office. That cord extended further to the phone on the podium in the classroom.
本題に入りますね。まず最初に、あなたが交渉人たる資格があるか確認。大石さんは私の味方ですよね。
当然じゃないです。あなたと私で園崎家の陰謀を暴こうじゃないですか。
Oishi answered without hesitation. Was he still my ally? Or was the sly detective just saying what I wanted to hear? Last time he stuttered, so there's already a difference. Either way, I only had Oishi to depend on. If I couldn't trust him, I was stuck. There would be nothing else I could
圭一
do.
君も一時期は私が言ってることを信じてくれなかったんだよね。でも今は信じるでしょ？
Keiichi was sitting on the floor facing away from me with his head resting in his
今は
hands.
もう私の仲間で味方だもんね。
ああ、そうだ。
Rena Ryugi asked Keiichi Maibara if he was her comrade, but I couldn't hear his voice. Was he trying to tell me that Keiichi Maibara was still alive, or that he was being forced to obey her because of the
前原さん
hostages?
も竜宮さんの味方なんですね。心強いことです。でもあなたも一時期前原さんを少し疑われていたじゃないですか。
うん、モデルガンの事件を聞いてなんて人だろうって思った。でも過去の事件で今を見損なっちゃいけない。それらを踏み台にして私たちはより良い理想の自分になれるように。
とてもいいことを言いますね。まさにその通りです。
だから私たちは許し合ったの。だから圭一君のことを私はもう疑わない。圭一君は仲間。
わかりました。ならばそれは私にとっても圭一君は仲間ということですね。圭一君に私がよろしくと言ってると伝えてください。
うん、後で言っておきますね。
圭一君にも新しい仲間としてご挨拶がしたいです。受話器に出てもらうことはできますか？
Conversation stopped suddenly. That made me nervous. Did I say something wrong?
いいよ、圭一君。大石さんから電話だよ。
I heard some rattling and rustling on the other side of the phone.
もしもし、前原です。
He sounded monotone. Unable to disobey, Keiichi Maibara must have been pretending to follow Rena Ryugu's
どうも
orders.
どうも、前原さん。沖宮署の大石です。この度はお世話になります。お互い頑張りましょう。
はい、よろしくお願いします。
竜宮さんは今何をしてますか？
教室の中を歩いてますよ。
前原さん、イエスならはい、ノーなら A と相槌を打ってください。あなたは竜宮さんが何を要求しようとしてるか。
ええ。
That answer told me for sure. Keiichi Maibara wasn't Rena Ryugu's accomplice. There's no way Rena wouldn't tell her accomplice what she wanted after planning a hostage situation like this. How would he help someone who wouldn't even tell him what she wanted?
担当直入にお聞きします。あなたは竜宮レナの味方？いえいえ、質問を変えます。あなたは竜宮レナに
はい。
There you go. The other guys in the car listening in on our conversation raised their fists in victory.
竜宮レナの一人だけ？
はい。
She was the only suspect, then we can respond appropriately. I guess nobody else believed in Takano's scrapbooks. So, my being fooled was even more embarrassing. So I thought about my next question. I heard the phone being taken away from Keiichi. Rena came back on the line.
ね、ケイイチ君は味方でしょ？
ねえ、そうでした。とても頼もしいですよ。
で、今度は大石さんが話してくれる番。前の電話で約束した園崎家関係への一斉捜査はどうですか？秘密の研究施設は発見できましたか？
I had to decide on what to say. Should I tell her we conducted the raids or not? Maybe she already knew we didn't raid. Maybe she was just testing me.
県警の防隊と公安部で一斉捜査作戦を準備中なんです。何しろ市内全域を一斉にやりますからね。
遅すぎる！大石さん、私たちは今、獅子骨氏が置かれている緊急的危機についてよく理解し合っているんじゃなかったでしたっけ？何をのんびりとしたこと。大石さん、本当に私の話を信じてくれているんですよね？私の味方なんですよね？味方ですよね？答えてください。
もちろんですとも。ですが、警察組織ってやつは簡単じゃないんです。私も最大限努力をしてるんですよ。ただですね、やはり話の規模があまりに大きすぎるもので。
大石さん、私、奴らにどこかで毒を盛られました。富武さんにあの異常な死に方を強いた原始の力を持った寄生虫、あれをどこかで盛られたんです。昨日から痒くて仕方がない。もう私、首をかきむしりすぎて血まみれなんです。いつ錯乱して喉をかき破ってしまうかもわからないというのに、大石さんは何をもたもたと。
I knew it. Oishi didn't realize how dire the situation was. He understood there was some kind of a conspiracy in Hinamizawa, but he didn't realize how soon their plan was going to be executed. Besides, I was already feeling itchy all over my body and was bound to die the same way as Tomitake-san.
申し訳ないです。これでも頑張っているんです。ただですね、みんな言うんですよ。証拠はないのかと。
証拠があればすぐに動いてくれるんですか？
Mio-san's scrapbooks. Maybe that was what I needed to convince the police. I was afraid someone would destroy the evidence if I handed them over to Oishi-san, so I kept them with me. But I didn't have much longer to live. I might not make it until tomorrow morning. That's right, I might be dead before tomorrow. I would die tonight.
わかりました。ミオさんのスクラップ帳をお渡しします。それでどうか他の警察の人たちを一刻も早く説得してください。
助かります。そのスクラップ帳をぜひ。
I looked through my backpack, which was lying by my feet. Mio-san's scrapbooks were in there.
私たちの切り札です。大石さん、くれぐれも、いや、絶対によろしくお願いします。
わかりました。信頼してください。必ずや奴らの陰謀を暴いてみせます。
でも、まあ多分、警察も組織だからそうなんだろうなとは思ってたんです。だから、ちょっと強引なやり方だけど、こんな形を取らせてもらったんです。大石さんは、私に要求されて仕方なくやっているという言い訳ができるはず。なんとかこのチャンスを有効に生かしてください。
ありがとうございます。必ずやあなたの期待に添えるよう努力します。ではどうしましょう。私が受け取りに参りましょうか。
I knew she wouldn't let me go into the classroom. She was still cautious. I could guess where Rena Ryuga was going to take this thing, so I tried to stay ahead of her. I handed a memo with my instructions on it to a colleague.
私がこの場を離れるわけにはいかないので、代わりに圭一君に持って行かせます。
その方がいいかもしれません。やはりあなたが学校の外へ出れば、もしやということもあるかもしれませんので。
もしやって？
いえ、この騒ぎをもう園崎家も嗅ぎつけているでしょう。 あなたがこういう手に打って出るとは思わなかったでしょうから、強引な手で口封じをしてくる可能性があります。
口封じ？それって
狙撃です。園崎家のヒットマンは多分あなたがこれ以上騒ぎを大きくする前に狙撃しようと企むでしょう。だからあなたは表に出ない方がいい。窓にも近づかないでください。さっきから何度か顔を出しているようですが、あれは危ない。そこを撃たれてしまいますよ。
ちょっと、周りには警察がいるんでしょ？そんなの未然に防げないんですか？
防げるなら防ぎます。ですがね、周りの視界が良すぎます。訓練を受けたものなら400メートルくらいはやすやすと狙撃するそうです。ましてやあなたもご存知の通り、園崎家の特攻隊は軍事訓練を受け、中でも暗殺技術に関しては特に習得しています。奴らは侮らないでください。園崎家の陰謀を暴くにはあなたの力がまだまだ必要なんです。
わかりました。忠告をありがとうございます。どうせ明日まで持たない命でも今終わらせるわけにはいきませんので。
そうですともそうですとも。いいですか。くれぐれも窓から顔を覗かせないでくださいよ。用心してください。
The phone conversation ended. When Ryugu was going to let Keiichi deliver the scrapbooks.
さっき書いたやつ用意できてますね。
OK です。うまく渡せますかね。
狙撃されるかもしれないと脅して外を覗かせないようにしたつもりです。でもまあ見てるでしょうね。そこはうまくやります。
I roughly understood what was going on from the phone conversation.
じゃあ圭一くん、これとても大切なスクラップ帳。園崎家の陰謀と奴らの侵略の証拠を暴く証拠。大石さんに渡してきてね。渡したらすぐに戻ってくるんだよ。見てるからね。変なことをしたら怒るからね。
Rena took out a couple of old scrapbooks from her backpack and gave them to me. Then she cast a sidelong glance at
みーちゃん
Mion.
にも後で話すよ。みーちゃんの家がどれほど恐ろしい陰謀を企んでいるかをね。ひょっとするともう知ってるのかもしれないけどね。じゃあ圭一くん、行ってきて。校庭の真ん中まででいいよ。余計な立ち話とかしちゃダメ。圭一くんは持っていくだけだから。おしゃべり禁止だからね。おしゃべりしたら千恵先生なら T 定規で叩くけど、私ならなんで叩いちゃおうかな。
分かってるよ。無言で持っていくからそのナタを下ろせ。俺はレナの仲間だろ。仲間だったら信用しろな。
そうだね。仲間だから信用するよ。だから裏切らないでね。
Rena's eyes were telling me clearly. They're telling me that she didn't trust me. Even this date, she also knew she shouldn't distrust her friends. Therefore, although she couldn't trust me, she was pretending to. That's why she didn't tie me up.
行ってくる。すぐ戻るよ。
よろしくね。
I walked past my friends who were lying down on the floor and headed to the exit. I saw some of their faces as I passed. Some were fearful. Some were sure that I'd use the opportunity to run. Some were scared that they'd die if I did. Don't worry, guys. I won't let her even touch any of you. When I tries to do something, I'll stop her, even if I have to risk my own life. Anyway, I'd do whatever it took to ensure that nobody died. I had to make sure Rena didn't get angry. I'd just wait for the right moment. I went down to the school entrance and changed my shoes, then unlocked the door and stepped outside. I felt the fresh air on my skin. I saw the lights from the police cars. I could feel all the policemen looking at me. As soon as I was in the schoolyard, a little voice tried to tempt me. I was free from Rena now. If I ran off the school grounds, I'd be free. What was I thinking? If I did something like that, Rena would go crazy, and who knows what she'd do. The important thing here wasn't my safety. It was to make sure that Rena didn't kill anyone. I saw a big man coming towards me from the school gate. That was probably Oishi-san.
前原圭一さんですね。どうもどうも。沖宮市の大石です。クラちゃんと呼んでくださっても。
すみません。レナから何も喋らずに これを渡せって言われてます。だから無言でこれを受け取ってください。
わかりました。それが問題のスクラップ帳ですね。お預かりします。
I tried to hand the scrapbooks to Oishi-san, but he stepped aside a little. Eh? Confused as to what he was doing, I changed my position and handed them to him again. He took them at that time. At that point, Oishi put something that was under his jacket into my pocket.
大丈夫です。校舎はあなたの背中ですから、竜宮さんが窓から見てたとしても、今のやりとりは見えていません。
何なんですかこれは。
I couldn't look into my pocket because I didn't want Rena to suspect anything. Whatever it was pretty heavy for its size.
あなたへのメモもあります。教室へ戻る途中で竜宮さんに見つからないようにこっそり読んでください。では、そのまま戻って。これ以上は不信がられます。
I just followed his directions. I was worried Rena had begun to suspect something. I looked at the classroom. The curtains were closed, but that didn't mean she wasn't peeking out through a crack. I went back to the entrance and locked the door. Rena checked and found the door unlocked. It could cause more trouble. Rena was in the classroom. There's no way she'd come down this way. She was alone. If she left the classroom, everyone would get up and run. They couldn't run because Rena was there. They were all waiting for their chance. The entrance then was Rena's blind spot. As I changed my shoes, I quickly removed what Oishi-san had put into my pocket. There was a radio with an earpiece, something else that looked like a short police baton. There was also a folded piece of paper. I opened the piece of paper and saw a note written in small print. Dear Maibara-kun, please hide the bug in your pocket. Picks up even a low voice, so she should be able to use it to get in touch with me. By using the earphone, you can hear me in return. There's also a spray for self-protection. Sprays as far as 1 meter. Make sure you aim for the face. This must be the spray. I guess it's safe to try it here. I held down the button and gas sprayed out from the nozzle. Compared to Rena's hatchet, this required some caution, but it was small enough to fit inside of my hand. It's reassuring that I could hide it so easily. In other words, it was now possible for me to stop Rena. As I realized all my classmates' fates rested on my shoulders, I felt sweat form on my face. The memo continued. The spray is just for self-defensive purposes. Pepper spray only impairs eyesight. It makes your enemy powerless due to extreme pain and coughing for at least 30 minutes. It's not powerful enough to render them unconscious. Therefore, please don't forget that there's a possibility that your enemy may fight back desperately in panic. The spray is your last resort. Please don't depend on it. You need to make sure to use it. Oishi. Is he telling me to use it or not? It's probably one of those grown-up issues. If the cops entrusted me solely with the fate of the hostages and I failed, they'd be held liable. Well, he gave me a weapon. He made me consider its use. I hid the bug and spray in my pockets and went back to the classroom. I felt a little dizzy, maybe because I was nervous. I was simply following Rena's orders because I had no other choice. That was why I wasn't scared. Things were different from before. I had a weapon. I was in a far better position, but my heart was pounding. Humans are so strange. Shit, what am I gonna do? What should I do, Keiichi Maibara? I want to fight with Rena? Momo said the spray only reaches as far as 1 meter. 1 meter, that was basically a hand-to-hand battle. That meant I only had one opportunity. I didn't have a second chance. Momo also said I needed to aim for her face. It wasn't gonna be easy shit. Besides, Rena was cautious. How could I stand directly in front of her within 1 meter? That's what I'd have to do if I had any chance of winning. Rena would do anything to reach her goal. She wouldn't even hesitate to kill. Just like how I didn't. Of course, things were already extremely serious. Apology definitely wouldn't be enough. At least there hadn't been any casualties. The more time passed, the more irritated Rena would get. She might demand something again. Might kill someone that time to show how serious she was. Bad things had already taken place, but a tragedy hadn't occurred yet. It was almost here. It wasn't very far at all. When I closed my eyes, I could easily picture Rena killing one classmate after another. After I killed Rena and Mion, my room was covered in blood. If she killed 20 people, the classroom would be a pool of it. If that happened, Rena would. She still wouldn't realize she was being delusional. She would rip her own throat out and die. That would be too big a cross for her to carry, and one day she would remember and be saddened. She didn't need to go through that. I didn't want Rena to go through what I had to go through. Shit, I feel dizzy. This was a very long hallway. I didn't know the classroom was so far. Each step I took, my determination to fight Rena became stronger. Rena would be shocked to realize I betrayed her. She couldn't wake up from the nightmare on her own. Someone else would have to wake her up. Her friends needed to be the ones to do that.
おかえり、ケイチ君。大石さん、何か言ってた？
なんだ？
As soon as I stepped into the classroom, I smelled something. Everyone had moved to one corner of the classroom. The smell reminded me of a gas station. Was it gasoline? I saw a red gasoline container by Rena's feet. The cap was open. It was seemingly sturdy and made of metal. It said gasoline on the side, written in felt marker. It must have spread it across the entire classroom. The smell was almost giving me a headache. It wasn't just the classroom. The classmates were soaked in gasoline, too. How could she? See, this was just like a hijacker holding a bomb. If the police would rush in, she would burn the hostages. I didn't know where she got it, but she had a lighter in her left hand.
レナ、これはどういう真似だよ。
もちろんやらないよ。万が一の時の保険なの。私だって大好きなみんなのバーベキューなんて見ただから冗談で済んでほしいって思ってる。
When I shut off the lighter, obviously she was trying to threaten me. I've heard about people committing suicide by setting themselves on fire. They pour gasoline on themselves and light it ablaze. I might think if it was extinguished right away, it wouldn't be that bad. Human skin is supposedly very delicate. They say that even if 30% of a person's skin gets burned, it's enough to be fatal. If it was your entire body, it would result in death for sure. I had been put in a disadvantageous position. My weapon might take Rena's sight, but I couldn't stop her from using the lighter. She'd probably use it for the moment she's attacked. I didn't know if she realized it. The kind of lighter she had would keep burning until the lid was closed. Therefore, all she had to do was light it and drop it onto the floor. In other words, my spray can wouldn't make Rena powerless at all. The last resort Oishi gave me had already lost all its power.
保険なんて大丈夫だろう。大石さんはスクラップ帳があればきっと警察を納得させられる。そうなればあとは一斉捜査で奴らの陰謀が暴ける。そうなんだろう。
あのスクラップ帳だけで本当に動いてくれるかな。お役所ってのはお尻の重いところだそうだからね。
And I was thinking that if she didn't see any progress with the scrapbook, she'd press her to the police by letting them know about the gasoline.
とりあえずは大石さんを信じよう。あとは家宝を待つだけだろう。
そうだね。じゃあさっきの話の続きをするかな。それでね、その寄生虫は長い時間を経るうちに徐々でもそれでは面白くない人たちがいた。それがひなみ沢御三家なの。だから彼らは
Rena was simply telling everyone what she heard from Takano-san. I said her mumbling so I could let Oishi-san know what was going on.
すごい匂いだよな。ガソリンをポリタンク丸々ぶちまけるとすごいもんだ。
I was pretending to mumble to myself. I could only say it very quietly. I wish I could say it louder, but that was probably impossible. I wasn't sure if Oishi-san could hear me. I thought of an idea to find out whether or not they could hear
車
me.
のクラクション聞きたいな。
クマちゃん、クラクション一発。
Magi honked once
ガソリ
quickly.
ンとは参ったっすね。これでさっきからなんとなく感じてた匂いの多分この後の要求を押し通すための切り札にするつもりでしょうね。
This must be some powerful gasoline if they can smell it like a whole field away.
普通の若い子がポリタンクって言い方をしたら18リットル入りのあれですよね。
さあ、多分。
18 liters, that's a sizable amount. So like the car behind Oishi, those are usually like 40 to 50 liter tanks, something like that. So that's like half a car's tank. A little bit under
小
that.
山君、営林署の人まだ返してないですよね。ちょっと呼んでもらえます？なるほどね。携行缶にはちゃんとガソリンと明記してあると、灯油のポリタンクにも灯油とちゃんと書いてある？
はい。中身を間違えたら大変ですから、すべての燃料容器にはちゃんと明記してあります。
Not too many people know this, but regular portable tanks can't hold gasoline. Gasoline, while common, is extremely flammable. It can even be lit up with static electricity. Therefore, gasoline must be kept in special metal containers. Those are called carrying cans.
じゃあ前原さんがガソリンって言ったのは間違いなくガソリンなわけだ。携行缶は何リットルのサイズのがあったんですか
？18リットル用と5リットル用の2種類があったと記憶してます。
5リットル用って多分平たい形をしたやつですよね。
ええ、真っ赤で平たくてこう取っ手がついています。
前原圭一はポリタンクという言い方をしましたね。18リットルの方でしょうか。
あるいは見慣れない形だったんで、とりあえず適当な言葉が思いつかずポリタンクという言い方をしたのかもしれない。でもどのみち本当にガソリンだとしたらかなり危険なことになります。
Gasoline burns when lit. It's an even bigger threat than liquid gasoline or the fumes. When gasoline fumes are lit on fire, they explode. Also, gasoline evaporates easily. Even at freezing temperatures, it evaporates. So in other words, inside the closed classroom, the fumes would fill the entire space. The classroom would then become a bomb itself.
クマちゃん、危険物第4類とかわかる？
いえ、気化ガソリンが危険だってことは理解してるんですが、詳しいことまでは。
18リットルと5リットルで最悪の場合どの程度規模が違うか調べときたいな。そうだ、ジジイに聞いてみよう。すいません。署に連絡して鑑識のじい様がいるか聞いてみてください。
おお、話は聞いちょるぞい。犯人に直接名指しだそうじゃの。リーチ一発振り込みドカーンってところじゃの。
Things he's talking about here are mahjong point levels.
裏まで乗っちゃって大変なことになってます。
Mahjong hands, I guess is what I'm looking for.
ところですいません。危険物の第4種はお持ちで？
おつよんかここにいる人間全員足せば公主じゃぞい。どうした？ガソリンでも巻いて籠城しとるんか？
まさにそのようです。人質の一人に盗聴器を持たせてるんですが、どうも犯人は教室内にガソリンを撒いたようなんです。ただ、撒いた量が18リットル缶か5リットル缶かはわかりません。両方のケースのですね、最悪の場合について教えてもらえませんかね。
教室の広さは？
だいたい50平米ですね。
室内は密閉か？
おそらくさぞやガソリン臭いだろうと思います。
多いしまずいぜ。
やっぱりシャレになりませんか？
教室は粉々に吹っ飛ぶぜ。教室内はまず全員死ぬな。
そりゃ18リットルの場合ですか？
アホ、5リットルの場合じゃ。わしの記憶がボケてないなら 1.8 メートルの室内を吹き飛ばすのに4リットルもあれば十分だったはずじゃ。
Policemen listening to their conversation on the side went pale. 8 by 8 meters meant a room that was 64 square meters. Only 4 liters are needed to blow that up, and at least 5 liters were scattered in a 50 square meter room.
つまりお釣りが来るってことですね。嫌なリーチだな。じゃあ聞きたくはないんですが、18リットルだったら？
Well, we already know it was enough to blow up the whole school.
そうだの。大石風に例えると、親のリーチ一発ピンフ単葉を赤々ドラドラに振り込む感じかの。
どういう意味っすか？
親の倍満24000点。配給減点が25000点だから？
そんなところだの。柱一本くらいは残るかもしれんぞい。
そりゃあ振り込みたくないリーチだな。ね。
今のうちに消防署に連絡して化学車両を待機させた方がいいだろうの。 事件解決後の処理は消防の指示を仰ぐ必要があるぞい。
参ったな。こいつは盗聴情報なんで消防車を呼び寄せたらバレちまうな。なんとか学校から見えないところに待機させましょう。
それがいいの。あとそれから多いし、盗聴器と言ったな。
ねえ、さっき人質の一人と接触できましてね。その際にこっそりと盗聴器を持たせました。ガソリン散布はそれで分かったんですよ。
まずいの。化学火災の事例で発火原因に電子機器のランプの点灯があったはずだぞい。ガソリンの発火点は300度程度。火花はおろか、静電気でも着火して爆発する。
冗談じゃない。
Take that fly.
なんだってそんな危険な液体がこうも簡単に世の中にあるんですかね。
知るか。消防法と自動車社会を作った連中に言え。6月だからの。そう空気も乾燥しとらんとは思うが、とにかく万が一に備えて盗聴器の電源を切らせた方がいいだろうの。
大石さん、盗聴器で聞く限り犯人はライターを所持している模様です。
ってことは、つまり前原さんがスプレーを使って静止しようとしても着火までは防げない可能性が大ってわけだ。しかも盗聴器まで使えなくなるとは。なんてこった。
大石、ライターはまずいぞ。冗談でもいじらせてはならん。犯人もガソリンの危険性を認知しとらん可能性がある。量を聞く限りとても知識があるとは思えんぞ。
Wishy's back was covered with a cold sweat. Never really thought this would turn out into such a serious matter. Didn't know how dangerous gasoline was. He didn't know because he'd never heard of cars exploding in car accidents. He knew it was dangerous, but he didn't know what it was capable of. Gasoline is more dangerous once it evaporates. Therefore, a burning car in an accident, gasoline fumes are being ignited at completely different levels. It's quite simple to understand if you think about how a car engine works. Cars vaporize gasoline in the carburetor and let it explode in the engine cylinders. In other words, that little explosions in the engine is what give cars the power to move. Therefore, if you wanted more power, an engine needs to be bigger to create a bigger explosion. If an engine cylinder was the size of a classroom, how much power would it create? Anyone with knowledge of engines would know, but a lot of people don't consider how dangerous evaporated gasoline is, because it's too familiar. 25 hostages and one hostage taker, all 26 people, were basically stuck in a huge bomb. Furthermore, the suspect might accidentally set it off. If she were to pretend to light the lighter as a threat, that would be the end. All the people around Oishi had gone pale. The classroom might explode at any moment. How could they save all the hostages? Especially when the criminal was living their own delusion in a request for something so unreal.
失礼します。先ほど受け取ったスクラップ帳の中に犯人からと思われる文書が見つかりました。
One of the policemen brought over a folded piece of paper. Oishi opened it while the others watched. He saw girlish handwriting on the paper. He could tell this was written before she invaded the school. Dear Oishi-sama, if you're reading this letter, that means I'm at the final stage. I must have seized the school and held the students hostage. I am planning to appoint you as negotiator, so please pretend to be threatened by me. Become my contact with the outside. First thing I want to tell you is that my enemy is the Sonozaki family and also the aliens, who are pretending to be parasites.
Suspicious.
Hero.
Suspicious.
They're not Prime subs. You can't gift Prime subs, first of all. Second of all, you only have one Prime. And let me look. When was your Prime? Your Prime sub was from 16 days ago. So, what do you think about that? How are you doing, Hero? I didn't think he'd believe me if I brought up the aliens, so I didn't tell you about them until now. When you read these scrapbooks, you'll understand. Aliens came to Earth in UFOs in ancient times. They landed in Onikafuchi Swamp. They used this village as their breeding grounds. Through that selective breeding, they widened their domain. They were successful. Now they're trying to invade the Earth. I mean, if you wanted death, you missed. We literally blew up our school and killed all of our friends. So that was a fun time. You're pretty meh. I'm doing all right. I mean, can't really complain. This past week, I've had some busy weeks in the past, but this past week was actually pretty good. And well, it's gonna get busy going ahead, but not with work stuff, with just personal stuff.
いやいや、驚きませんよ。高野の他のスクラップ帳も読みましたが、これに負けじを取らずの親切揃いです。個人的にはオッシーが面白かったな。
The Sonozaki family, as well as all the village authorities, have been brainwashed by the aliens. Villagers' attempts to revive the cult of Oishiro-sama were actually part of the alien strategy to invade the Earth. The aliens are very clever. They don't let people realize they're being controlled. Irie Clinic must be their secret research center. Please conduct an investigation and expose their secret. Oh no, what's happening at the retirement home? That lady not eating her 20,000 oranges. Also, please check out the bottom of the swamp. The UFO must still be there. Also, capture all relatives of the three families and take x-rays of their brains. You'll find hideous parasites inside of them. But please be careful. The aliens eliminate whoever finds out about them by replacing their host with a look-alike. That's how they've been controlling the village. Therefore, there may already be some aliens among the villagers. It's possible that they will try to interfere with your investigation. As a matter of fact, there have been lookalikes of Mio Takano, Rika Furude, and me, Rena Ryugu. If you see any of those three, capture them immediately. That'll be the proof of aliens existing among us.
Takano Mio? どうしてでしょうね。
ああ、あれだ。俺さ、彼女との電話で、隣のケンケンさんの検視で、一日ズレがあったかもしれないですよって言っちゃったことがあったんですよ。
ああ、検視結果のミスの話ですか。
それで私、祭りの日には死んでたはずなのにどうしていたのかななんてことを言っちゃったんです。それをこういう風に解釈するとはな。
Oh yeah, that definitely yeah. I can understand that. That definitely weighs down heavily on you. Yeah. I've heard the same thing from people who have pets with like very short lives, where it's like, oh, they only last like 3 to 5 years, and you go through like, 2-3 pets a decade, and it also weighs on you, but not as much as maybe as much as a human life. It depends on the person.
ふざけ半分で脅しすぎたかな。
自分の名前が含まれてるのも奇妙です。
And like especially with, how the health situation is in the world right now, I imagine it's even worse at most of these retirement homes. Now it's like that up here in Canada right now.
間違えたとか。
One of the policemen spoke up. He was one of the pair who searched the garbage dump that night.
これは俺、わかるわ。ほら、竜宮レナを探し回った晩、ゴグナで目撃されたって話があったでしょ。あれだよ。あれは多分、村人の誰かが流したデマなんだよ。で、それを本人がどこかで聞いて、自分がもう一人いるように錯覚した。
くそったれ。ノストラダムスだっけ？あれの大予言と同じですね。何が起こっても予言に含まれるように解釈しちまう。今の竜宮レナは箸が転んだって宇宙人の仕業だって言い出すぞ。
あるいはいずれ捕まることを予見して精神鑑定で有利になる資料を先に用意したとか。
Yeah, that makes sense. Either you don't care or you've just been around it so much that, like you right now, it just hurts to keep experiencing, so you kind of have to wall yourself up if you don't want to be exposed to the hurt each time. Yeah, there's always people like that. Like, I had a friend who, he was a smart guy. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I'm sure he's still a smart guy. But in school, he wanted to become a doctor. Specifically, he wanted to be a brain surgeon. And when I asked him, why brain surgery? Why is that what you want to get into? He just flat out told me, because they make the most money. And like, if that's the only reason you want to get into something like that, not like helping people, that's just a really crappy motivation.
そんなことあの子は考えてないよ。
But like I
あの
understand
子は
like
本気で信じてる。
becoming a brain surgeon is different, but if you have to, you know, be a janitor to pay the bills, like good for you. You have found something. I hope you work hard at it.
いや、本気の本気で。コロッと生かされた私だからわかるんです。彼女は本気で信じてるんだ。このい
あ、まだ1枚あるっすよ。何々
Yes, I was poisoned yesterday with the same stuff that killed Tomitake-san. Been scratching my throat since then. I will probably have clawed my throat open by tomorrow. You can find the antidote when you investigate the Irie clinic. Please bring it to me.
これは使えるな。
ですね。本気で宇宙人の話を真に受けてるなら、解毒剤だと言えばうまく騙せるかも。
But you may not find the antidote, or maybe it'll be too late by the time you do. Therefore, considering the time I have left, I will set 7 p.m. tonight as the deadline. If an investigation doesn't take place and the antidote doesn't arrive by 7 p.m., I will choose to die with all the hostages by lighting the gasoline instead.
19時？今何時だ？
18時前です。
Days are long nowadays. It doesn't even get dark in the evenings. Well, I start getting dark around 7 p.m.
1時間か。
Yeah, that's such a shame that they don't care at all. It's also such a shame that these, like, people there in the memory care unit, like, maybe the last things they see are just people around them who just don't care about them. Like, that's such a horrible, horrible thing to think about.
いや、1時間を待たずに火遊びで大爆発するかも。くそ！どうすりゃいい？
何が地球侵略と戦うだ。それに人質を巻き込むなんてめちゃくちゃだ。
めちゃくちゃなんです。今の彼女にはまともな交渉なんか通用しない。しかも本人は冷静だと思ってる分だけ立ちが悪い。
おいさん、それより次の文章。
何？
I'm planning to spread gasoline throughout the classroom. I'm sure you realize how dangerous that is. If anyone suggests storming into the room, please tell them exactly how bad an idea that would be. Also, the hostages are anchored down with U-shaped bike locks. Even if those alien policemen rush and kill me, they'd have to cut each lock, but if you tried cutting them, you might create sparks. Therefore, you need to completely ventilate the room first. In other words, it'll take an extremely long time to rescue all the hostages from the classroom. Actually, I have a different explosive system set up other than the gasoline I spread. Very simple time bomb using gasoline and a kitchen timer. The kitchen timer provides electricity at a set time. I rip the tip off its plug so it'll create enough sparks to ignite the gasoline. I've already set the timer to 7 p.m. Even if I'm not around, there will be an explosion at that time. If the classroom isn't ventilated by that time, it'll explode too. Sorry to ask you like this, Oishi-san. Please help me so we can avoid a tragedy. Yeah. Like really, like, how much effort is it for you to, like, I'm sure that, like, all these people are, you know, overworked, understaffed, but if this person's basically having a panic attack and it would take you all of, what, like 10 minutes to go to her room with her, like, yeah. We really don't value our healthcare system. Like, there's a bunch of stuff we don't value nearly as much as we should. And who feels the effect of it? Old people who really just, like, don't have anyone else there for them. Like, Please let the three families know that Mion Sonozaki, the successor to the head of the Sonozaki family, Henrika Furude, a mascot for the cult of Oishiro-sama, are in this classroom. If anyone from the three families helps you, I'm sure their conspiracy will be exposed by tonight. Alien invasion is going to happen very soon. Please get going quickly. To my ally, Oishi-san. Rena Ryuku. Oishi threw the scrapbooks to the ground. Honestly, 6 hours is not enough, first of all. Like it's been a long time since I did training. I had to do a bunch of training when I worked with kids. And it's always stuff you hope you never have to use, but things like identifying when a child has been abused by a parent, things like that, and other just like safety stuff, like how to use an EpiPen, like things like that. And that was stuff that every year we would get retrained on, because some stuff changes. I know with EpiPens at the time there were 2 different ones. There was the regular one-use one, which just slam it into the thigh, and then there was another one that had 2 doses of it, and you had to make sure that the dose inside wasn't used, and if it was, you had to like swap out the dose before you did the injection. And one that, first of all, that never prepares you for it. Like you never know how you're going to react in that situation, or if you're going to notice it, or like remember all of these things. It's not enough time. It really isn't. And like they can never teach you everything as well. And like especially I guess in your situation, like it's so easy to start cutting corners on stuff. Like I know I've done it, like no cutting corners and stuff that I know I shouldn't do. And like it's even worse when it like affects someone's like health and safety or mental well-being.
何が味方だ。キッチンタイマーって目覚まし時計みたいなもんですか？
ああ、昔の炊飯器とかにはタイマーがついてないものも多かったんですよ。それでね、コンセント穴のついたキッチンタイマーって名前の目覚まし時計がありましてね。
I hope they did more than 6 hours. Like, if that's not even a day. If you can even like give a day to like how to deal with, maybe not deal as maybe sounds like there being a problem. How to assist people with dementia through tough times. Like one that like that's a lifetime of knowledge right there. And if you're not even willing to let them spend a day on it when that's like primarily what they do. I hope they had a lot more time. I hope they have regular retraining sessions, although I seriously doubt that.
そのコンセントに炊飯器を挿しておけば、仕掛けた時刻に自動的に電源が供給されて、指定時刻に炊飯器が電源オンにできるって代物です。
へえ、そりゃ便利そうですね。
確かにそれを流用すれば、次元発火装置なんて簡単にでっち上げられる。キッチンタイマーってあたりが女の子っぽくて。
Surely it's not that like I said, I'm sure that they're overworked, understaffed as probably almost everyone in the healthcare industry is right now. Like I'm sure that they are stressed beyond anything I can imagine. But so is this lady. Yeah. And something could have been done about it.
電力会社に頼んで電力を落とすとかはどうすかね。コード式なら電力がなければ無力化できます。ああ、でもダメか。教室が真っ暗になるのと同時にライターをつけるに決まってますよね。
やっぱり解毒剤の線をついて指向性の睡眠薬でも与えますか。指向性ですよ。多分自身に使う前に人質に試すはずです。
Well, I mean, I'm glad that they aren't understaffed, but if you're not understaffed, then you have the resources to take time to do things right.
注意してください。
了解です。手配します。
あと、 前原さんともう一度話したいな。
I still haven't told him, by the way, stop using that headpiece because he might set off a giant bomb.
竜宮レナが間違ってライターをいじらないようにうまくなだめてもらわないと。あと盗聴器もオフにさせないといけません。盗聴器はどう？面白いことは拾いましたか？
犯人が人質に危害を加えている模様です。
なんてこった。
どうも園崎ミヨンに対してのようです。
やめろレナ。
Rena kept hitting Mion, who had her hands tied behind her back. Rena wasn't using her fists, but instead the handle of her hatchet.
圭一君はそこの壁から動かない約束だよ。動いたらレナも怒るんだからね。
Rena's gaze intimidated me. Her eyes were full of madness. I could feel Rena's emotions boiling over on the inside. If I opposed her, she would easily cut Mion's arm off.
とにかく私が許せなかったことは、みーちゃんが死体を掘り出して警察に売ったことだよ。信じてたのに。信じてたのに。
It hit Mion's face over and over. It wasn't just Mion's hands that were tied behind her. Her neck was also tied to the window frame with a bike lock. There was no way that Mion could protect her face. I didn't know if her forehead was cut or if her nose was bleeding, but her face was covered in blood. Her blood got on the handle of the hatchet, and every time she got hit with it, more blood was smeared on her face. The handle of the hatchet could easily smash her forehead. Because of her position in the Sonozaki family, Mion couldn't say that she hid the bodies, so all she could do was endure. That is pretty cute. And I hope her actual dog, like, loves that stuffed animal. So that would be even more adorable. If, like, they come over to visit and the dog cuddles. Actually, I don't know. Do nursing homes allow, like, does it allow pets to come in if, like, someone visited with their dog or something? I don't know if that's a thing. But yeah, that is pretty adorable. Rena no longer had any restraint. She might even continue until Mion's front teeth were broken.
ミオン、もういいだろう。俺が話す。本当のことを話すから。レナ、ミオン。
本当のことって何？圭一君。
That's nice. That's nice. I would feel really bad if, like, someone asked to move in here and then, like, they're just not allowed to bring, like, their pet. Like, I'd understand if it, like, you can't have all pets. You can't have, you know, someone with, like, their, you know, big mastiff or whatever. Or, like, I don't know, some grandpa's got like a 6-foot-long python. Probably not allowed in.
ダメだよ、ケイちゃん。
クラスのみんな、今から言う話は頼む。聞かないでくれ。少し物騒な話をするかもしれないが、悪いことの話じゃないんだ。だから聞かないでくれ。耳に入っても忘れてくれ。
I think we're gonna call it here for tonight.